Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Who's fired up tonight? Are you kidding me? This is such a special live stream occasion, okay? You get to meet the new dog. Wow. That's going to be a little bit later. But for right now, we got to shout out Marcus, who's already shouted out a super chat. I cannot believe it. A 50 spot, of course, to help out with the new puppy fund tonight. That's what all the donations are going to come down to, okay? All this money is going towards the new dog. We're so excited to share the dog with you a little bit later. We've been holding in this surprise for quite some time, but of course, I want to talk about Eli Holstein committing to Texas A&M on a Friday when I'm on the road in the state of Texas. Like, I feel as if I gave LSU some bad vibes there. But anyway, Eli Holstein commits to Texas A&M. We're going to talk about that. But at first, we did this poll question as far as a 2-quarterback system is concerned. And Max, who has been supporting us for quite some time, says, what? Really? A 2-quarterback system? I mean, come on. We can't do this. Can't do a 2 QB system. And honestly, I tend to agree with that. But I think something that plagues us all is this idea called indecisiveness. I struggle with this all the time, people. Indecisiveness is something that eats me up. Let me know in the chat right now if you struggle with indecisiveness. I remember the first night we were in Dallas, went to a really nice restaurant. And by really nice, I mean, it wasn't like super fancy schmancy, but it was really good. Okay. However, I went back and forth on my entree to where I ordered an entree, changed my mind. He said, no problem. I'll happily put that in for you. And guess what? They ended up bringing out both entrees to me. And I said I didn't want the other entree. So I struggle with indecisiveness. And what happened was the owner nicely came out and just said, hey, no problem. We have a big menu and I'm just going to let one of my employees eat it. Right. But my indecisiveness held up my girlfriend's order. It held up the entire restaurant. It held up potentially other orders. It held up that server. And what I think might happen here with this LSU quarterback battle is that they are going to be so indecisive over who's going to start that we might end up seeing both of them. And look, and Byron says in the chat here, I struggle with it at all times. So I do. I am so indecisive, okay, to the point where it has crippled me. It has given me such bad anxiety at times. Especially since I don't get to go to Dallas, which has some of the best food on the planet. And I had so much anxiety going into it because we were picking up the new dog and it was tough. It was really tough. Indecisiveness kills us all. Okay. It can really give us issues. To me, this idea of a 2-quarterback system, because I've gotten some questions on it. And it's funny how for the first part of this live poll. So I put up a live poll beforehand, and the answers were overwhelmingly no. But since the start of the live stream, you notice the percentages have actually gone down over whether you want a 2-quarterback system. Okay. We don't have that many votes, 17 votes, but the percentages have kind of evened itself out. But a lot of you still say, no way, we're going to go ahead and end this poll. And an overwhelming amount of you said, no way. No way should we do this. And I agree. I'm not a big 2-quarterback system guy. I don't think what I think LSU might do is start MYLES Brennan, but then have a few packages for Max Johnson as a runner to be thrown in there. And I know that is probably what's going to happen. I feel it in my bones that is what LSU is going to do versus UCLA. I hope I'm not right about that. I hope they go with either or. I hope they don't give the reps to one quarterback and then the reps to the next in the second half, unless, of course, there's garbage time. I just think they just need to roll with one. And it's going to be very interesting because G. Lou 420 says it's going to be Brennan with a short leash. But here's the problem with the short leash is if you give Brennan a short leash, he runs a diametrically different offense than that of Max Johnson. So I don't know what's going to happen here with this quarterback battle. I understand that a lot of you write in my comment section that Max Johnson's running away with this thing and he's the hardest worker in the building and, you know, he's 2-0 and he separated himself from MYLES Brennan. And then I've also heard the opposite, that MYLES Brennan is looking better than ever. So we'll see what happens. I just think that that's what's going to happen. And what I fear will happen is let's just say LSU does the 2 quarterback system, right? And they decide to go MYLES Brennan, all right? And then put in Max Johnson to run some, okay? The issue with that, and it's going to be a big issue, is number one is that it's so hard to get in a rhythm as a quarterback when you do that. We see that sometimes for you Saints fans. You saw that with Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. Well, the issue here is at least when the Saints do it, Taysom Hill is as elite of an athlete you're going to find a quarterback. Whereas Max Johnson as a runner, he is a dual threat option that keeps defenses honest with his legs, but he's not a elite runner of the ball. So it gets weird. What's up, Leandria? You've been missing for quite some time. We say hi to Matthias. We say hi to Mario. Nick, we're going to get into some Eli Holstein chatter, okay? I know you want recruiting all the time. I'm happy to do it a little bit later. And if this just happens to be your first time tuning in, keep this in mind that if you do super chat, like of course Marcus did, or like Max, we go immediately to your topic, okay? No questions asked. We go straight to it, all right? And then once again, a little bit later, we will reveal the dog. The reason why we're not doing it now is because Hey is not here at the moment. She is currently at a birthday party. Big Al says, just do whatever it takes to win. Gilu says, game 1 UCLA. Should we go pocket passer or Max with his feet? Which one is UCLA better prepared to defend? So that's another great point, Gilu. All right. And it's kind of like your comment a minute ago. It's going to be Brennan with a short leash. You go back to what Max says here on this super chat. Even small packages disrupts quarterback rhythm. And it's true. Okay. Now, there are some offensive coordinators who can do this. Obviously, Sean Payton has been very successful with it, but even then, it sometimes worked, it sometimes didn't work. Obviously, the most famous example of this, of a really well-oiled quarterback system in college football with the 2 QB system, is obviously Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, where Chris Leak was a pocket passer, and Tim Tebow's obviously, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks ever. LSU's done this before. Obviously, Matt Flynn and Ryan Perrilloux, and they had a lot of success. But I'm not sure if Max Johnson is the same level of runner as those 2 guys, and I'm not so sure that concept would necessarily work going into this next season. So it is very interesting. Funny thing is Max J ran a faster 40 than Walker Howard in high school. Yeah, and here's the thing. Max is a really good runner. But for me to have a 2 quarterback system, the guy that's coming in needs to strike fear and concern to the linebackers meeting him in the hole. So in other words, can you run over him or can you run past him? Tim Tebow had that. Ryan Perrilloux, of course, had that. But those guys, of course, were elite athletes, kind of ahead of their time type of players, where, obviously we see more elite athletes at quarterback. So, take Taysom Hill once again. At least when he came in, he can house it. He's faster than even some of the running backs you'll see in the NFL. So it's very interesting. I just don't think the two quarterback system is something that LSU should explore. And, it could be something that they think about to keep both of those guys happy, or, to keep the locker room happy or whatever. So, I go back to the dinner example, what we did the next night. So we spent the first night in Dallas, and then Thursday night, and then Friday morning, we picked up the dog, who you will see when Haley gets back. But Thursday night, before I even got to that restaurant, I planned what I was going to have to eat. Okay. Before I went there, and if you're just joining us, I shared the example a second ago. The first night we went out to eat in Dallas, there was a huge menu. I'm a huge foodie, as a lot of you know, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I changed it up. I screwed up the servers. I screwed up a lot of different things, and it was a mess. But the next night, I knew what I was going to have. Appetizer, everything, down to a T, and everything went smoother. So the quicker you can make your decision, the better. The more decisive you are with your decisions, the better. The more you'll enjoy your meal, and the more your team will have success. I really do believe that. So whoever Jake Peetz wants to be the quarterback, I think he needs to be decisive about it, because the offenses are just so different with the two quarterbacks. The one quarterback's strengths is the other one's weaknesses, and vice versa. What's good, Johnny 5? What's good, Big Al? Yes, Max, another good example, Emory Jones, who is, a really elite athlete. Not a big guy, but he's obviously fast. And Kyle Trask. What's up, Kenny? What's up, Johnny 5? And yes, Mario. Wait, G. Lou, you're a chef too? Well, Leandria, this is kind of cool. So Leandria is an actual, or G. Lou, you can be as well, a professional chef. That's what Leandria does full time. G. Lou, are you really a chef? I'm very interested. Mo Funky, no, we have not revealed the dog yet. We wouldn't do it without Mo Funky in the chat. I got to shout out Mo Funky. Checked in on our travel. Not only Mo Funky, but Big Al did. Checked in on our travel. And Marcus did as well. And Marcus, of course, is driving right now, which is why you don't see him in the chat. But Marcus is, of course, listening. And I got to shout out that wonderful $50 super chat. G. Lou, you're in Montana? Oh, my God. Can you imagine Montanians? Is that how you say it? Montanians eating Cajun food for the first time? They might think, G. Lou, they might. Oh, Ep, you're a chef as well? Here's what's really cool is our channel is military and chefs. I really believe that. It's so cool. For two things, I care a lot about, and I can't do either of those things. I have a lot of respect for what both of those professions do. That's cool. We got a bunch of chefs. Waiting on the big reveal. Yeah, Big Al. So hopefully, I doubt I'm not going to say it, but I doubt Haley's niece is watching this, but they're doing like a big surprise birthday party for them. So that's where Haley is, and her niece is her favorite person on the planet. She doesn't when her nieces call, oh, forget about me. Max says LSU knows who their quarterback is going to be. They're not announcing for two reasons. So someone does a transfer, and UCLA doesn't have a game plan for us. That's very interesting, Max. Very interesting. So let me ask you this. What's up, V-Law? Do you got, and also for the, wait, Ep, you're a chef in the Army? That's really cool because my grandfather, um, who passed away tragically when I was in 9th grade, he's my favorite human being to ever walk the face of the earth. I still miss him every day. He was also a chef in the Army. He was a baker. Yeah, it's cool. That's really cool, Ep. Good to have you. Go Tigers. What's good? Larry, what's good? So let's go to Max's super chat here. Who thinks? Now, this is a different question. This isn't a Max versus Miles debate, but let's answer Max's super chat here, as in Max Kalina. I'm gonna start calling him MK just because Max Johnson is his name that we say all the time. So to MK's super chat, who thinks Ed Orgeron and Jake Peets have already picked their quarterback? Who thinks that they have met privately and said, this is the guy that we're going to roll with, and they're just not telling anyone else? Who thinks that LSU, the powers at B, knows who their quarterback's going to be? If you think they already know, type Y for yes. If you think that they haven't made their decision yet, type in for no. Exactly, Nick. I that's something else you have to keep in mind as well. Coach O, who does a weekly interview every week, he's normally pretty open with information. Okay. Would you think Coach O would have already told us? Matt thinks why? So I agree with V Law here. I think that they have an idea, but nothing is set in stone. All right. Jason Young says yes. And Go Tigers says no, but I believe Miles. Max says, of course, yes. No, you didn't, Jared. You have not missed the new dog. We were going to wait on you, Jared, because you actually are a big dog person. Same thing for Mo Funky. So, yeah. We have not. We're going to wait till Haley gets back. But she is in the room back here waiting on you guys. Exactly, Max. Coach Orgeron did say that they are keeping it close to the vest, as they should. So I actually agree with what Max says here. I think I agree to a certain degree. I agree with what V Law says. They have a very good idea, but nothing is set in stone. But Max is also correct that they are not going to tell anyone. They're not going to let it leak. And I think what they will do is they will consider the benefit of running both of them with the ones and really keeping this under the vest. They would consider the benefit of disguise to be better than the benefit of just picking a guy and rolling with them. Yeah, Matt, that's true. Something else Matt brings up here at the end, which leads us into our next topic. Bearded Dragon says, I think Miles deserves to have it be his job to lose. It is interesting. Also, something else I found to be very interesting was before we get into Matt, everyone welcome Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the chat. So they're still open to change it, but they have a pretty good idea already. Yeah. So this is obviously very important. Okay. And I want this to be known, right? And this is very critical. I don't think what I'm about to say is going to give anything away, but it was very interesting to see. So LSU did this photo shoot recently, and I go back to last season and I go back to the players that LSU was really pumping up on social media before the season began. So a player that LSU posted a lot about heading into last season was Chris Curry. Okay. And they were hyping him up and he got the number 18 uniform and obviously 45 carries for 145 yards. It just wasn't that great of a season. He didn't have great run blocking, but he also left a lot of yards on the field. Also, Damon Clark was someone that got a lot of hype, and we all thought he was going to be great. Wasn't a great season. So it was interesting, in this photo shoot, you saw a lot of players in this photo shoot that's not really done a whole lot. And that could really put a lot of pressure on them and the team to play those players. So I found that photo shoot to be very fascinating. But to go to Matt's point, this is very important. The offensive line is also a factor in this because with crappy protection, Max still gives you a chance. He does. With no protection, Myles can still succeed. His protection wasn't unbelievable against Mississippi State or Missouri, but Max is just going to give you a little bit more. Mobility always helps out the offensive line, okay? It always does. Doesn't matter, who it is. Some mobility helps out, which is ironic considering Myles in high school actually put up some pretty decent rushing numbers. We also say hi to Nicole with an H. Yeah, V-Law Brennan has the experience and the better arm. Hopefully they're working hard on his mobility. Yeah, it was funny. So the Mississippi State game, Myles Brennan really struggled. He was way too conservative instead of just ripping and being Myles. And he also wasn't the best at stepping into the pocket. Then against Missouri, you saw, and Vanderbilt, you saw him get a lot better in those categories. So obviously Myles is very coachable. Also, this guy's LSU through and through. So once again, Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat. We go straight to your comment. For now, we get to Bearded Dragon. What's up, Kane? I've heard reports that Coach O has the most approved this season. I totally disagree. I think with all the players he lost from 19th season opting out, I think he held the team together. Yeah, I agree with that second part. The first part, obviously, Coach O has a lot to prove. He had the greatest team of all time. He deserves a lot of credit for it in 2020. As we've said 1,000 times over, it wasn't ever going to be a great season. So 2021, this is going to be a pressure-packed year for Ed Orgeron. But does he have the most to prove on the team? No. There's some players that have a lot to prove compared to Ed Orgeron. The thing that's interesting, though, is, you do get the salary bump after 2019. So, yeah, Kane says, Orgeron Title IX lawsuit. Okay. Look, it's the second time it's been brought up. Because I was traveling yesterday, I wasn't able to read too much into what the latest is with this. And then obviously with the new dog. So full disclosure, I always say this when discussing serious matters such as this one, it's important to read every fine detail regarding this story. Now, sometimes whenever you discuss these things, the chat room can get a little crazy. But here's my take on the way things sit right now. LSU needs to learn their lesson as far as dealing with nefarious, actions. Okay, so this is obviously the most important thing. No one player or coach should do anything criminal. Okay, it's wrong. The culture, the Title IX, the fact that LSU only had one or two Title IX administrators on a campus full of, thousands of students is obviously very embarrassing. I think we can all agree on that. So it was obviously a campus-wide thing, but it also involved the LSU football team. So I won't go too deep into, the Darius guys and Drake or whoever, number 14, whatever. What I will say, though, is outside of cleaning up and kicking off players who do really bad things, the next part of this is also true, that LSU is LSU. It is one with different types of coaches. It is one with different types of players. And we're not talking about win. We're talking about win at the highest level possible. So I'm not calling for anyone's job, but my point is you should never put aside very serious items such as, what we're discussing here for the sake of the football team. And what happened, especially during the Les Miles regime, was really bad. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question good enough, Kane. Obviously, Title IX, I don't think anyone in this chat is happy as an LSU fan to see what's happened. Obviously, I discuss whatever regarding LSU, and I try to be as objective as I can, even though we're all LSU fans here. We got to do better. LSU's got to do better. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, Vila. I don't want to get into this or that and the fine print of it. I'm not belittling it. It's just, I haven't been able to read everything. I mean, you've got to go through all these different documents, and I will at some point. It's just, Brody Miller of The Athletic's written about this, and linked that I always read Brody stuff. I just haven't gotten a chance to get into it. Let's see. But yeah, as Big Al says, it is the elephant in the room, and it, of course, deserves to be discussed. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, LSU needs to get better on top of it. Yeah, I know, Max, but this is a thing. Whenever you do this, whenever this kind of stuff happens, it just never really goes away. Let's see. Jared wants a shout out. You always get super chat shout outs. I got you, Jared. The whole family is watching. So shout out to Nicole with an H, Boo Boo, and all the people over at Jared's house. Jared is very interesting. So Jared actually puts his TV on, puts me on the big screen, and gets the whole family to watch. So always thank you, Jared. Thank you for your super chats. We got an Alan Risher question here. Okay, I'm all about it. But yeah, I think Ed Orgeron, as far as purely football is concerned, is he's got a longer leash than a short leash, if that makes sense. I don't think this is, obviously if this team only wins 7 games, there will be questions. If this team goes 9-4, that's obviously not where we want to be, but that's still pretty good considering how deep the SEC's gotten. But I think we can all agree that if the team doesn't go at least 10-3, with all the experience coming back, the second year of this shift to a 4-3, and all these, experienced quarterbacks, a more experienced offensive line, new coaches, new offensive line coach, all these things. If we don't go at least 10-3, it's a disappointment. I'm back on the patio, Jared. You see, I knew this was going to happen. Bearded, I don't do baseball, but what I do Bearded, as far as it's other LSU sports or just anything else is concerned, I know you're not in a lot of the live chats. I do touch on different topics later on in the chat. So yeah, Bearded, if you hang around, I will happily give you my thoughts on LSU's baseball hire. Jade Johnson. I once again, not a huge college baseball guy, but I'll happily give you my thoughts a little bit later. The little bit I know about LSU baseball. The only LSU baseball player I know is Brad freaking Cressy. Let's go. But I also know this. Whenever I bring up baseball, I got to shout out Nick. Nick McCants. He's like, no baseball. No. Huh? Let's see. Yeah. It's the bottom line is you've got to take this stuff serious. And that's the number one thing, I'll say to Kane and whoever else. You cannot excuse nefarious behavior. You simply cannot do it. You should have zero tolerance regarding, stories like this. And you should immediately report it to the proper, authorities. Now, whether or not whatever happened depends on your perspective on how you read into these stories. But we can say with near certainty that some really evil under the table stuff happened, and it's not good. It's not good. So, it's not something like Carver said that you could just sweep under the rug. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm being really definitive about this. You can't, you just can't. And with Les Miles, they let it happen. There's still administrators that work at LSU that swept some Les Miles stuff under the rug. And, it made the program worse, not only on the field, but definitely off the field. Let's see. And like Matt says, there's some people that, doesn't care, which is, kind of sad, but people consume things differently. That's it. Yeah. Let's see. Jared says, I got 20 pounds of crawfish and beer before my deployment. That's crazy, Jared. Deployed? That's just so wild. But you'll probably be back in Alabama before I'm in Fairhope again. Yeah, Nick is like, no football. No baseball. No baseball. But Kane, thank you for the super chat. And obviously, if you want to do it again, we'll see what happens. Let's get a little shot here. Fired up. Got a little pimple on my lip right here. But yeah, I'll go into this Eli Holstein story just for a little bit. So we didn't do a video on it Friday. I was driving, safety first, had the new dog in the car. So we didn't do the video on the Eli Holstein commitment. Okay. Fig fever, no baseball. Okay, see ya. Look. Yeah, I've never done a video on LSU baseball. I'm not saying I hate baseball. It's just not what I do on this channel. But yeah, we'll obviously touch on the Jay Johnson thing a little bit later. And Fig for the first time commenting, it's kind of strange, but we'll see you. Eli to Texas A&M. All right, so Eli Holstein, 2023 quarterback commit. It's very interesting. So Eli Holstein is obviously, a really good prospect, 4-star quarterback, top 150 prospect. What's good, Vernon from Vernon Speaks Auburn. I love it. Good to hear from you, Vernon. Can't wait for that LSU Auburn game. I'm still licking my wounds from that beatdown in Jordan Hare. Kane, I've already depleted you of funds. Look, Kane, I always appreciate your support, man. Whatever you give, I really appreciate it. Yeah, man. You know what, Vernon? My girlfriend was actually asking about this. I actually had this. I've had this microphone for a while, this Blue Yeti, and I didn't start using it until the channel. But here's the most important thing regarding the Eli Holstein to Texas A&M chatter is obviously Jimbo Fisher did a really good job recruiting him. Jimbo Fisher picked out the quarterback he liked in the 2023 class, and he went all out for him. I mean, Eli threw in front of him. Eli and Jimbo Fisher went 1,000% at Eli Holstein. Now, a few things about the Eli Holstein story that's very fascinating. So Eli Holstein knows Walker Howard is committed in the class of 2022. Now, as far as, walk-ons and whatnot and backups, it can get a little confusing, but here we go. So stick with me. In high school, Eli Holstein's older brother is Caleb Holstein, who is currently at Louisiana Tech. So Caleb Holstein was the starter at St. Thomas More with Walker Howard as his backup. So even though Walker Howard was the higher rated recruit and the better player, Caleb Holstein was a senior and Walker Howard was only a sophomore. And Holstein was really good, so he remained the starter. And then Walker Howard waited his turn. So the way it was explained to me was that Eli Holstein ended up going to Zachary High School, where he got to throw the ball to Chris Hilton so he could start as a sophomore, because obviously only one quarterback plays at a time. And that's essentially what happened. So Eli Holstein, who is class of 2023, I just don't think I would want to go to LSU as a 2023 quarterback just to eventually one day be Walker Howard's backup again. But what's fascinating about it is Texas A&M also has a 5-star quarterback in the class of 2022 committed as well. So I don't think Walker Howard necessarily was the one that deterred Eli Holstein to go to Texas A&M. I just don't think that was the case, okay? However, to the other side of that is I do think if you spend so much time and resources, going after Arch, like Carver said, you might end up empty-handed in this class. So we'll see what happens regarding that. And honestly, if you're an elite quarterback recruit, more often than not, anywhere you go, you're going to sit the bench for at least a year or so. Think about think about the best of the best SEC or just college football quarterbacks in general. Every single elite college quarterback that you can think of was preceded by a really, really good SEC quarterback outside of maybe Joe Burrow, okay? So Cam Newton was sat behind Tim Tebow, who sat behind Chris Leak, who was really good. Then you look at Clemson, where you had Trevor Lawrence, who sat behind Deshaun Watson. Well, he didn't sit behind Deshaun Watson, but he sat behind Kelly Bryant, and then he eventually started, and Kelly Bryant was a good college quarterback. And then, of course, you had Kyler Murray, who sat behind Baker Mayfield, and so on and so on. So you're always going to be sitting behind someone, no matter where you go, for college. Okay, so you have to have that in mind. There's so much luck that goes into you actually even getting the starting quarterback job. It's not really a meritocracy per se. It's hard to win a quarterback job because we don't have preseason games. You don't have 7-on-7s. You only have drill. I mean, it is just hard. So no matter where you go as a quarterback, you're going to run into some issues of playing time. So we'll see. Now, Eli Holstein going to Texas A&M, it does suck. You don't want elite quarterbacks, especially from Louisiana, going to the SEC West, because what happens a lot of times is quarterbacks are oftentimes the lead recruiters for your class. Take Garrett Nussmeier for this last class. Walker Howard was on campus this weekend for this class. And then, of course, you go back to arguably the greatest LSU recruiter of all time was Russell Shepard. Russell Shepard, 24/7. You were hearing about how much this guy recruited some really good players to LSU. So, it's fascinating. It's crazy. So it's going to be interesting now that Eli Holstein, who is loved, and I mean loved, by fellow high school teammates. I don't follow a lot of prospects on Twitter, but, the algorithm and just retweets, I mean, I just see this all the time. Louisiana bootleggers saying how much I love playing with Eli Holstein. So it is interesting. It does suck that he ends up committing to Texas A&M. Is LSU completely out of it? I don't know. Is it now just Arch Manning and Ricky Collins? No. There are other 2023 quarterbacks that LSU is working out right now. And I do think they'll end up getting a top 20 quarterback in the cycle. I do, even with Walker Howard already committed for 2022. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I know Nick is a big Dante. I know he's a big Dante Moore fan. Still haven't been able to evaluate him. He's obviously a really highly rated player for 2023. I do think evaluating 2023 quarterbacks before their junior season is obviously very, very early. So we'll see how these junior tapes come out. Yeah, it's interesting, Max. Russell Shepard. Could he have been a high school? I mean, could he have been a quarterback at LSU? I think about that a lot, actually. Exactly, Mo Funky. Right on the money. And Mo Funky's comment is a very good one. And it kind of touches on what we were just talking about, but even more so. The bootleggers are kind of the thing. You know, the for those that don't know, the Louisiana Bootleggers is obviously a 7-on-7 team. And, you know, they just run Louisiana. You know, I spoke to a recruit not too long ago, 2022, and he's not from Louisiana, but he is a 2022 corner, really under the radar kid. And we share a few acquaintances, and I was able to have a conversation with him. And he was talking about, you know, his 7-on-7 team was close to getting to face the Louisiana Bootleggers. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the structure of 7-on-7 and if there's multiple Louisiana Bootlegger teams or flights or how do you even make the team. I don't know. But I do know is that a lot of elite prospects, you know, flood to the Bootleggers, and they're not just all from Louisiana. So it's interesting how that works. Eli Holstein's a really, you know, interesting prospect. He's got amazing size. He's got a cannon. So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, like Carver says, Miles was just bad. It goes into what Kane just super chatted a minute ago. Les Miles was really, really bad. And, you know, it's more than just on the field stuff. He just was bad. He was not a great thinker, and he was just so definitive in how he acted. And when you don't hold people accountable and they feel that anything they say goes and the regular laws and morals don't apply to them, that leaks over into football. So, you know, it's crazy that, you know, Russell Shepard was so underutilized at LSU, but, you know, it is what it is. He had a great NFL career. V-Law says, I don't like Jimbo grabbing a Louisiana recruit. Yeah, well, he's going to get one or two every now and then. You know, last cycle was Jordan Gilbert. Hopefully none for the 2022 cycle. I don't think he has any Louisiana commits right now for 2022. I don't. Hopefully, and he's already got one for 2023, so we'll see. Yes, Mo Funky with a really good comment there. And look, I'm not saying that LSU needs to land every Louisiana bootlegger player. It's just unfeasible. You know, that there were times where a few of you commenters hit me up about this, said, you know, someone I know that goes to these tournaments said, hey, Carter, you know, this Landon, I don't know how to say his last name, Ibeta or Ibieta, you know, he's the best receiver on the bootleggers. He just makes constant plays. Well, he just committed to Miami. So it's impossible. It's impossible to get every kid that plays for them. However, there are some kids that do play for him that I think will help LSU out a lot. You know, just based on light film study and light player evaluations up to this point. There are some players I like more in the 2022 cycle than others. And there's some players in the 2022 cycle that I think is just okay, not just elite. Like, for instance, take Bryce Anderson, for instance. God, I would love to get him back. I would love to get that kid back. Elite athlete and, sideline to sideline safety. I can easily see that. Obviously, he plays mostly quarterback where he is in Texas. He also, plays some DB. But, man, his athleticism, you could just see it. It just pops off. Some kids just pop. And to me, he's a 5-star type of player. But he's outside, that. Then you have the Azariah Thomases of the world, an out-of-state athlete DB who plays wide receiver and some DB as well. Those are the kind of guys you need to get. And we'll see. But yes, I mean, Jimbo's a good coach. We could talk all we want about how much we hate Texas A&M. I don't like Texas A&M all that much. They're not my least favorite school. But it's kind of strange. Like whenever you get into like Texas A&M discussions, it's so weird that LSU has dominated them so badly, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's been really bad. Like, it's not even really been that close. Let's see here. Let's go, Yusha. A rare off-season sighting from Yusha, the Ukraine president of the PHL nation. What's good, man? Or I should say the PHL universe. What's good, Yusha? I have my look at this. I rarely get up during a live stream, but I'm so happy Yusha dropped in. Look, guys, I still have it. Lazio. I still got it, Yusha, right here. I love it, man. I only diehard PHLers remember Yusha. I'll happily put this on just for you, my friend. Lazio, my favorite Serie A club. R.I.P. Giorgio. So, it's funny. You know what else is crazy, Max, is that Miami has had so many great players in the NFL, even after the U, right? Of course, you have guys like Frank Gore and Sean Taylor who played when the team were still really good, but then, and it's still insane Frank Gore's playing now, but then, the U has just some more of these modern guys that get drafted and play really well. I've been good, Yusha. It's good to see you. Yeah, Nick, I don't. Here's the thing about Jordan Allen. All right. And Jordan Allen's got a huge fan base on this channel, a huge fan base. Okay. I want people in the chat. Let me ask this question. Okay. I want to see how deep into recruiting you guys are. How many of you are Jordan Allen fans? Okay, let me ask this. How many of you know who Jordan Allen is? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about the former LSU defensive end, Jordan Allen, who is a rotational player in the 2012, 2013, 2014 region. All right, Go Tiger says, no, I don't know who Jordan Allen is. How many of you know who Jordan Allen is? Nolan says yes. Carver says yes. Nick says yes. For those that don't know, DRC, he's not in here right now. DRC is one of our most knowledgeable commenters. He doesn't know anything about recruiting. He doesn't give a rip about it, which, makes a lot of sense. For those that follow recruiting, so Nick is probably a bigger recruiting guy than most people. Recruiting just matters to to some people, and then there's a lot of people that just don't care. I only care about the guys that's on with the team. I used to be that type of person. Now, I've gotten more into recruiting. There's still a lot of it that I hate. Carpet Shelf, the president of the Dwight McGlothern fan club. I love it. Jared, we got to wait till Hey gets back. Graylin. Okay, so Graylin. Yes. No. Big Al doesn't know. Okay. So as many of you see, I wanted to show you this because 50% of you say, yes, I know who it is. And, quite a few of you say, no, I don't know who that is. So, you got to keep that in mind whenever you're discussing recruiting is that, outside of course, Walker Howard and Will Campbell and Jacoby Matthews, not everyone knows who some of these guys are, right? So Jordan Allen, very interesting. He's a 3-star defensive back who played alongside Sage Ryan and has gone up against some of the best receivers in the state of Louisiana, kills it at workouts, kills it in 7-on-7s, and he has not gotten the offer yet from LSU. And I think a lot of people, he's gotten offers from Miami and Georgia, so a lot of the elite schools are going after Jordan Allen. And I think a lot of you fear that you're missing out on a 3-star defensive back. I think if this were even 2 or 3 years ago, Jordan Allen would already be offered. He checks a lot of boxes. You get some positional versatility with him. Some see him as a safety, some see him as a corner, some see him as a nickel. I don't know if I see him necessarily as a nickel, but he's a really good player. I think he's really good. I think he should be offered. And most people think he will be offered. However, what's changed is the transfer portal. So you got to leave these slots open on the back end. And if you are a Jordan Allen fan and you really want Jordan Allen to be a part of this class, the one thing you hope happens is a lot of these other elite prospects commit. And the quicker they commit, the quicker LSU can cross people off their board and comfortably give Jordan Allen an offer. Okay. And, it gets into morality. What if Jordan Allen gets the offer and then he commits and then LSU doesn't want him anymore at the end and you process him then? And, I don't think a lot of you want that. So I wouldn't want that. So obviously, with Jordan Allen, I wish the best. Like Kane says, this is a teenager just trying to do, live for his dreams. And obviously his dream is to play with LSU. One of his best friends is LaTerrence Welch, who's going to be one of the better players in the class of 2022. So, you cheer for him, right? And as we always say on this channel, we cheer for Louisiana 3 stars. I love them. These are kids that wasn't probably sure that they were ever going to get the LSU offer, but they got it. The Perry Rileys, the Matthew Langlois, DJ Charks, whoever. So, it's interesting. I always cheer for him. I always do. So, yes, let's see. Make sure I'm not missing any Super Chat, Cash Apps, Venmos. Once again, if you're new to the chat, we immediately go to your question after a Super Chat. And yeah, I wanted people to see that not everyone knows who a 3-star defensive back is. Let's see here. Jared's just ready for the puppy. Nolan says on week 1, UCLA and Rose Bowl. Here's the thing, Nolan. I'll tell you this about the UCLA game. That's going to be really hard. And this is going to be really hard because this offseason is going to be so much weirder. Obviously, last season was the weirdest college football season of all time. And Hitstick, we'll get to your question potentially in a second. However, what makes this season opener so interesting, Nolan, is obviously, yes, everyone wants to talk about UCLA. And this UCLA game is the most talked about game of the season because it's the first game of the season. But how we view the game is going to change so much 7 days before the game because UCLA plays a game in week 1. Now we have an idea of what UCLA wants to do offensively with Chip Kelly. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is really good. He's a really good quarterback. Now, is he an A-plus quarterback? No. Does he have this ridiculously high ceiling? No. But he was a former 5-star, and he is really good. He can kill you with his arms and his legs. And I'm telling you, this kid is really hard to sack. I was watching a few people talk about him. I watched him do an interview recently, and it's wild how many of these quarterbacks go to all these camps, and the quarterbacks have all this access to all this information. And then I watched QB School break down a video of Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and I was really blown away at how quickly he avoided some pretty ridiculous sacks. UCLA is going to put your defense in a lot of strenuous positions. So we'll see what happens. But yes, Nolan, so much is going to change from now until then. Yeah, Amakat, Alexandria is a special place, man. Let's see, I had a guy on Twitter ask me today if I'd rather have Wiggins or Ausberry. So just to shed some light on it, Wiggins is a 4-star defensive end. Ausberry is a 4-star defensive back. Wiggins, a pretty decent gap for them as far as their national rank. Wiggins is about a middle tier 4-star recruit. Depends on which service you're talking about. Ausberry is a 4-star safety. If I had to choose, Hitstick, I'm going to pick Ausberry as well. And I understand Wiggins is probably obviously he's going to be the higher ranked player, but I think especially now with the way college football is, I would much rather take the defensive back over the end. And this is coming from a former defensive lineman. I love defensive line play. It's my favorite thing to evaluate. But when you look at different metrics and how the game changes, I think it's going to be even harder now to sack quarterbacks. It's interesting. And this gets into a little bit of a philosophical, question. The quarterbacks that LSU feasted on. So think of the greatest LSU defense, of all time is probably the 2011 defense. They were really good. Okay. And they just had all this speed. And the 2011 defense was just so ahead of its time with all these great defensive backs and 5-star players, a lot of 3-stars who played at a 5-star level, a lot of 4-stars playing at a 5-star level. And, it's ridiculous. That defense was loaded, but there wasn't a whole lot of just these elite can't miss prospects on this defense. They were just really fast. And that defense had a lot of really smart players on it. And what happened is if you go back to 2011 and then include 2010 in there, you look at the quarterbacks that were playing then. It was like Chris Relf. Who remembers Chris Relf of Mississippi State? It's weird because you can make a strong case that the best quarterback not named Cam Newton or Ryan Mallett LSU played in 2010 was TJ Yates of North Carolina. Okay. the quarterback, that year was a decent year for quarterbacks that LSU faced. But then in 2011, really, did AJ McCarron strike any fear in you, Greg McElroy or whoever? No, they just didn't. But now the quarterbacks are so much smarter. They step in the pocket so much faster. They make decisions so much quicker. And something else you can't do is quarterbacks don't get hit as much. They simply don't. And, that's because of the fear of a penalty. So, the impact a defensive end can have on a game is obviously really immense, especially if Quincy Wiggins lives up to the hype. But honestly, a guy like Ausberry, who I think is more of a safety, especially with the way LSU wants to play, their defense, I think he can have, a bigger impact. Something else you have to keep in mind as well, Hitstick, as far as Decide between a safety and a defensive end. Obviously, if Wiggins wants to come to LSU, you absolutely take him. He's a special prospect, and I would probably say he's a slightly better prospect than Osbury. I think Osbury is really good himself. The difference, though, is it's really, really, really hard for a defensive lineman to play special teams, whereas a safety can play any aspect of special teams. You can argue a safety or probably a running back gives you a lot of or a wide receiver gives you value, gives you a lot of value on special teams as well. What's up, Tony? Ahmad, what's good? Yeah, I missed you, man. Graylin says Wiggins. Yeah, Wiggins is really good, though. Don't get it twisted. I just think, especially considering how deep LSU is a defensive end, it's going to take a lot for LSU's defensive ends to not work out. And I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about the future. Do you really think Savion Jones, Landon Jackson, and Bryce Langston, out of those three guys, not a single one of them's going to be a star? I would be shocked if not one of those guys is, as good, if not better, than Ali Gay or Andre Anthony. They're three guys that are really talented. I had someone that I really trust their insight and information. They said Savion Jones might be the best defensive lineman in this class. And I said, wait, hold on, including Mason Smith? He said, yeah, including Mason Smith. And I was like, he's not an early enrollee. And he was like, it doesn't matter. Savion Jones is a real deal. So we'll see. I think at defensive back, though, the interesting thing about DB is that from this point forward, you're always going to have 5 defensive backs on the field. Now, of course, corners and safeties are completely different thing. A nickel's also completely different. But at all times, you're going to need 5 safeties or 5 defensive backs on the field. Whereas with the defensive line, depending on your scheme, how many defensive linemen are you going to have on the field at one time? 4 at most outside of goal line situations. So, yeah, let's see. Let's go ultra. So, obviously, this is the most important thing before we go any further. This was obviously really personal. But Ultra, during our last live stream, was watching us the same day Ultra had he didn't have it. His lovely wife had a child. So, not only congratulations, Ultra, on the super chat and supporting the channel, but just as important, Ultra, congratulations on becoming a father. Okay? Round of applause for Ultra becoming a dad. We got a bunch of super dads in here, including Carvis, who during Father's Day weekend, this made Haley's night as well. When Carvis said just this unbelievably cool thing, he said, "Yeah, I just picked my son up and we're watching the channel." That's so cool. Whenever I hear fathers and sons and fathers and daughters and daughters, mother, son, whatever, watching our stuff together. I just think that's so great. I think about my parents and their parents. I just think that's great. So congratulations to you, Ultra. That is the best thing. And thank you, Graylin, for showing Ultra some love there. And you too, Nolan. So who has the most sacks for the LSU defensive line this year? Well, here's what we'll do, here's what we'll do, Ultra. I'm going to let everyone answer in the chat because we've brought this up a few times recently. Answer in the chat right now, guys, who you think is going to have the best season for LSU as far as sacks are concerned. Type B for BJ Ojolari, type A for Ali Gay, type 2A's for Andre Anthony. I was just coming up in my head. Or you could just type their names in there. Or is it going to be Mason Smith? And don't forget this, Jaquelin Roy was a really good pass rusher last year for LSU. Lots of BJ Ojolari's. Carver says Andre Anthony or Ali Gay. Hit stick throwing Mason's name up there. It's cool stuff. Let me check out. Nice shirt, Jared. That's funny. 2 or 3, not good as one. Where have you been, Leonard? I'm surprised no Jaquelin Roy's in here, man. BJ Riley, I like that. Kenny Chesney will lead LSU in sacks. Well, I'm pretty strict about Kenny Chesney chat on here. 2 or 3, not good as one. If you super chat a Kenny Chesney question, we'll talk about Kenny Chesney for 2 seconds. Good to hear you, Leonard. 2 or 3, not good as one. Always trolling me with the Kenny Chesney stuff. Mason, I like that. I bet you it stinks for Mason. It doesn't stink because defensive tackle is such a hard position, to live up to 5-star potential, right? It's such a hard position, especially now that the running game isn't, the same way that it once was. So it's a lot harder for a DT to impact the game. But yeah, I think Mason Smith's really good. So yeah, I would say BJ Ojulari. I think he's, the most active pass rusher, obviously the most talented pass rusher. Evaluating his spring game, it was interesting. I thought Dale Rosenthal got the better of him, which more so excited me about Dale Rosenthal compared to BJ Ojulari. From a technical standpoint, I thought it was interesting because obviously, Dale Rosenthal is a left tackle. So BJ Ojulari was the right side defensive end. We can get into flipping, strong side, weak side, whatever. But when BJ Ojulari lined up as the right side defensive end, he actually put his right hand down in his stance. Now, different pass rushers would tell you different things. It doesn't matter. But when I line up at defensive end, my personal preference was to put the hand on the ground that was closest to the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see a BJ Ojulari if he does play right side defensive end, if he continues to line up with his right hand in the dirt. He's talented enough to do either or, but we'll see. I think, looking at his tape last season, he was really good. He was actually really good for a true freshman. Could bend like no one else's business. We did a film study on a play he made against Vanderbilt that was unbelievable. And it actually ended up going for a touchdown because he was held on the play and there was no whistle. He also made the big sack or the big pressure against Kyle Trask when we really needed it the most against Florida. He's just really good. Now, what's going to be interesting, Ultra, about your defensive end comment is the SEC is having a complete overhaul with its quarterbacks, where last season the SEC was a majority pocket passing quarterback conference. And I'm not just talking about pocket passers. We're talking cement in the boots type of passers. And whether that was Kyle Trask or whoever, now those quarterbacks are really good, but they were pure pocket quarterbacks, which means you have a little bit more freedom for what you're going to do as a pass rusher, especially if you're rushing out of a 4-3 when you're lining up half a man against a lot of guys. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works out because LSU is going to be going up against more elite runners at quarterback. So sacks are going to be potentially, or quite frankly, easier to come by. Obviously, there's so many things that go in to sacks. But obviously, if I had to pick one, I would go with BJ Ojulari, even though he's not listed as the starter. Ultra, I also think this is fascinating. I think LSU should not 3-down their linemen. I think LSU should force, and I really do mean this, force a heavy rotation. If I was Ed Orgeron and Andre Carter, I don't know why I wouldn't play all these freshmen. I would rotate the heck out of this position. There are so many defensive linemen on this team right now. We don't know. I mean, Philip Webb, Desmond Little, Eric Taylor. You don't know what could potentially happen. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, just rotate a lot. I mean, rotate a lot. Something else a rotation does is it forces the offensive lineman to not get in a groove. So take the 2019 defense, which really started to catch its stride towards the end of the season. Well, what really started to work for Dave Aranda was at the end of the Texas game, what Dave Aranda decided to do was run these race car packages, okay? And what a race car package basically is you bring in 4 defensive ends to rush on the defensive line. 2 or 3 not good as one. We're going to get to this question really quickly. And thank you for that generous super chat. Thank you against Jared. So, really quickly to end on this 4 defensive lineman thing. So, against Texas, we were still not generating pressure. Okay, and Sam Ehlinger lit us up. So, what Dave Aranda said was, look, I'm not going to put any defensive ends on the field. I'm going to put athletes on the field. I want the 4 best athletes as my pass rushers. So, when LSU was in their base 3-4, they had 3 essential defensive tackles on the field and a standing linebacker and Jamar Chase who played on the edge. But when it was 2nd and long and 3rd and long, LSU would get way faster and way lighter in their package, where they would take out Tyler Shelvin and Glenn Logan, and they would put in Damon Clark and Marcel Brooks. And what that did was it forced the offensive line to go up against a completely different kind of athlete, and it opened LSU up for more games defensively, more twists, more stunts, and it worked. It worked really well, to the point where if you go back and watch the Texas A&M tape, you see the offensive lineman just could not, for Texas A&M, get in a groove. And the same thing was true really for Oklahoma and Clemson. And that was a very underrated storyline, switching and putting Marcel Brooks on the field. Now, Marcel Brooks himself didn't make a lot of plays per se. It's just he gave you a completely different look. Damon Clark, the same way. He was really good in 2019 as the situational pass rusher. So we go to 2 or 3 not good as one. We started the live stream talking about this. If Max Johnson wins the job a few games in, do you think Myles Brennan will transfer? So, good question here. And this is where it gets into semantics, okay? And Carver says definitely rotate. Way to go, Nick Hole. Yes, that's exactly. I feel the same way, Jared. I really do. So, look. Oh, God. Hey, calling. Yes, babe.
Hey, I know you're on there. I was just checking in.
All right, on your they're ready to see the dog, baby.
I know. Well, the lady just got her car, so I'm gonna be leaving here shortly.
I mean, these kids nowadays getting cars for surprise, but I mean that's just great. Okay, we'll see you in a bit, babe.
All right, but is the dog okay? Have you heard?
Yeah, no, the dog is perfectly fine. The dog is perfectly fine.
Okay.
All right, love you, babe.
Love you.
She's on her way. The new dog reveal. I know a lot of you are excited. So we go to, I promise you're going to get to see a new dog. We got to wait for Haley, though. Got to wait for Haley. She was like, you can't show them the dog unless I'm here. So they did a surprise birthday party for her niece, who I think just turned 17 or 18 or whatever. And she got a car. That's so great. So, 2 or 3 not good as one. Okay, this is a great question. The most important thing to point out is Myles Brennan still has 2 years of eligibility left. Okay, so if he plays only 2 or 3 games, he can go somewhere else and play 2 more seasons. Okay, so that's obviously a good thing. Well, no, he can only play 1 more season because he's already used his redshirt year. I think. Yes. If he played, or I don't know. Either way, he still has another year of eligibility on top of this next one. Okay? Now, this is obviously very important to keep in mind about Myles Brennan. He's obviously loved in the locker room, but Max is also loved in the locker room. So, I think especially now with the transfer portal being open and, player mobility being the thing, yes, Myles Brennan very well could transfer. and so could Max Johnson. It's different now that the players have more power than they've ever had before. And, especially if you, at quarterback, you take into account that we've had all these Heisman winners. We've had 3 number 1 overall picks at quarterback that were transfers. So, and that doesn't include Cam Newton. So, yeah, you can, I think every quarterback will consider transferring if he's not the guy. Because every quarterback plays a game because they want to play. So, yeah, Myles has 2 years left because this last year did not count against your eligibility. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. So, yeah, every player who stepped on the field last season did not have that year count against their eligibility, which is why a guy like Austin Deculus was able to come back. So, when MYLES Brennan was a junior, last season was his junior season. So, in theory, this season should be his final season, but it's not. It's not. So 2 or 3 not good as one. I hope I answered your question just fine. Let me know if you want to talk some Kenny Chesney. Thank you for your super chat as always, Ann. So maybe I'm wrong about it. If someone wants to correct me, let me know. But if Myles does step on the field this year, it does count. Or if he is on the roster, I think it still counts because he's already used a redshirt year. I think that's right. I'm not sure. But I do think if he transfers before the season, it changes things up. Big Al, that's true. Which one are you talking about? Huh? Man. Let's see here. Exactly, Carvis. I mean, I just think what's going to happen in college football is that it used to not be this way. If you got beat out, you stayed at your school, okay? Because you didn't want to go to a JUCO. But now that changes. Now you can go from LSU to Florida or wherever and immediately play. Joe Burrow, baby. So yeah, you can do that. It's really crazy. So 2 or 3 not good as one. Let me know what you think on that response. Hopefully I answered it okay. And yeah, Myles Brennan could easily, leave. Amacat says Howard, Nuss, and Max for 2022. Do you have them in that order though, Amacat? That would be bold. Walker Howard, day one, saying, I'm the dude. Look, Nuss. Look, Max. You didn't get 2 film studies in a week on Power Hour LSU. I'm the guy. So, yeah, I would, I wouldn't want Walker Howard to start year 1. I don't believe true freshman quarterbacks should start. But, yeah, I think it's more year 2 or year 3. Exactly, go Tigers. How Jalen Hurts handled it. Very well could. But yeah, and it's interesting because I think about Myles, quite a bit. His career trajectory is so interesting. I do think about how high school play affects how you play as a collegiate player. Considering, Myles was so dominant in high school, so dominant, but he also had multiple Division I guys on his team in a state that is not so loaded. Whereas Max Johnson played at an extremely highly competitive level at Georgia, but didn't put up quite the same numbers. And based on that, we just, you factor that into the limited sample we have of both of them as a starter. It's just so hard to just pick one or the other. And 2 or 3 not good as one. I'm not sure if you saw this, before the stream began, but, I brought up the idea of a 2-quarterback system. And I just, and this is why it's so important, to be at the live stream at the beginning, because, we rehash different things. So I won't go too deep into this, but decisiveness is going to be so key when it comes to picking a quarterback. It's going to be so key. Jeremy, it is weird. I've always loved the left-handed QB as well. Just not many left-handed QBs, right? Okay. Another question from the new daddy on PHL. Your honest opinion of Durante Jones, does he have natty potential? Once again, 2 or 3 not good as one. Let me know if I answered your question okay. If not, I'll happily get back into some Max and Miles chatter. My opinion of Durante Jones is, obviously incomplete, as it is with all of you guys, because we don't know. I do think he'll be better than Bo Pelini. I do think as a defensive coordinator, it is more important now than ever to be extremely open-minded, okay? And look, the greatest coach of all time brought this up in a coaching seminar, Nick Saban. And he said defensive guys and defensive coaches are at such a huge disadvantage now because all the rules favor the offense. I don't know many rules in football that blatantly favor the defense outside of a few. Obviously, if you jump off sides and you get back in time, it's not offsides. And if the ball goes out to the back of the end zone, it's a touchback. But really, pass interference favors the offense. Hitting the quarterback favors the offense. Holding rarely gets called, and it happens a lot. We can go on and on and on and on. Blocking downfield on screens. It's so many different things. RPOs and the advances and 7-on-7, making these quarterbacks so much better. It's so hard. It really is so hard, right? And I think, Durante Jones, player relatability is big, as Amacat brought up. I also think the NFL pedigree matters a lot. I also think, just a fresh perspective on the entire ordeal is obviously very important. And on top of this, and look, I go back to this all the time. The Bo Pelini hire was just so bad. It just never made sense. The thought process, everything that went along with it was just, cancerous. And on top of it, this is what is really going to concern me about the Bo Pelini, is that normally if someone is so bad at something, it can have some residue until the next season. And I hope that's not the case, because there is a lot of things that Durante Jones has needed to clean up. I do think Durante Jones has made 2 really good moves this offseason. The first is moving Jay Ward to safety. Now, I'm not necessarily too on fire about that, simply because I think Jay Ward is the best option at nickel. But I think moving him to safety is very important, because LSU, quite frankly, was really bad at safety last season. Now, some of that's coaching, but a lot of that's just speed. We weren't fast at safety. Jay Ward, if there's anything he's good at, it's this guy can play at a high level for a long period of time, okay? He's got a great motor. He's got a great engine. Also, he's got a short memory, because in the Arkansas game, he was burnt toast all the way up until that final drive where he made the 2 game-winning plays. He's high IQ, 3-star, a lot of proof. No, I mean, you would have never thought a year ago that we were relying on Jay Ward to quarterback our defense, but here we are. So he's coming in with, obviously a huge chip on his shoulder. I like the move. I do. Now, obviously, am I concerned about it? Yes, and I think we all could be, but I think that move was really good. I do. Number 2, Durante Jones realizes that there are some weaknesses of having a 4-man front. And obviously, we touch on this in a lot of live streams. The backside B gap of the running game was attacked mercifully by offenses. And the Missouri game, it cost us the game. We just simply could not stop runs through that hole. And our run fits were really bad, really, really bad. And look, I saw Durante Jones do some very creative things in the spring game to combat that. And I won't get too deep into it because it can get really technical, but that lets me know that he's thinking outside the box. But Cliff Notes version is that he was moving his defensive end, his weak side defensive end into the backside B gap, essentially making a 3-man tight front with an end. So he was, bringing some Randian concepts into his run defense, which is very interesting. And I just think the world of him. I really do. This is a guy who's traveled the world, and he said this in interviews. He has sacrificed a lot of his personal life to chase his coaching dream, whether he was coaching in the NFL or in Hawaii or Wisconsin. I really hope he succeeds. So yeah, I'm a big Durante guy. I hope this thing works out. And as Carvis points out, the 4-3, you've got to have a good free safety. And hopefully Jay Ward is the answer to that. It's hard because when you think about the great safeties, and we're going to get to your super chat here in just a minute about Kenny Chesney. This is obviously very important. So LSU's had a lot of really good safeties, but free safeties are really hard to come by. It is hard, especially now. Okay. So, you look at some of the great free safeties. We're talking about pure free safeties at LSU. They've arguably been better at strong safety, even though the roles, go back and forth with each other oftentimes. But, it's hard. Free safety is really hard. And obviously, you think of the great free safeties at LSU. You think Chad Jones, you think, Jack Hunt. You think those kinds of guys, right? Laron Landry, even though he played a lot as a strong safety as well. It's just so hard now. It's way more complex than what it once was. And, Jay Ward's going to have a lot on his plate. So let's go to 2 or 3, not good as one. Kenny Chesney, close friend, died of a brain aneurysm at age 35 while 6 months pregnant. Friends like you and I know this. So, yeah, obviously that's very serious, and I hate that for Kenny Chesney. But I always love these super chat, random Kenny Chesney, facts that 2 or 3, not good as one brings in. And thank you, as always, for your support. Kenny Chesney actually has an LSU uniform, even though he is a fan of Tennessee and Alabama football. So, yeah. My buddy watching me wants to know how long you going tonight. Oh, okay. Let's see. Mick says 4-3 works pretty good in the NFL. Yeah, it does, but I do think NFL defenses are a little bit more multiple than we like to think. Also, this is also very key to keep in mind that some defenses in the NFL are good 3-4 defenses. Whether it's the Belichick 3-4s or the Rams 3-4 from last season. But yeah, something else is our defensive tackles weren't that good last season. I hope they're better this year. I think one thing that was really good for the defensive tackle room is Joseph Evans really started to make a push. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on the guys that you automatically think are ahead of him, whether that be Farrell, Logan, or Roy. That defensive tackle room is loaded, and how they rotate that position is going to be very interesting. Exactly, Leonard. So it's interesting. I've had the good fortune of interviewing Nick Saban before, and it was strange. I don't know how this topic was actually brought up, but Saban told me one of some of his closest friends were Alan Jackson and Kenny Chesney. I got to find that interview somewhere. But anyway, random fact right there. Todd Harris has good ball skills for a strong safety. I like our safety room. Yeah, it's Todd Harris does have good ball skills. What, he had a pick against Ole Miss. He had a pick against Vanderbilt. But Todd Harris, his best play on tape last season. Obviously his worst play, he missed a big tackle against Mississippi State. That was his first game back from the injury, so I'll give him a break. His best play, though, all right? And the reason why this play was so critical, I'll tell you why in a second. So LSU was in a light box, and they had just given up a long run. And on 1st and 10, Florida had the ball in plus territory. Bo Pelini called a perfect blitz. A rarity, I know. But then on 2nd down, Todd Harris swooped in. Florida's running backs weren't that good last season. Todd Harris, even with that said, swooped in and made an amazing open field tackle against Florida's running back number 20 in plus territory. And I mean, you would have thought he was Jamal Adams. He flew in there and just stuck him. And it was only a 4-yard gain. It's an extremely difficult tackle to make. Todd Harris came from the deep safety position and made the play. Now, why was that play so big? Well, instead of the running back falling forward, as a lot of you know, if a running back has a clean run at a safety, the safety might still be able to make the tackle, but the running back might be able to fall forward for 3 extra yards. But on this hit, Todd Harris not only stuck the running back, he brought him down immediately. On the very next play, because it was 3rd and 7 instead of 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4, guess what happened? The Eli Ricks pick 6. So Todd Harris not only had good ball skills, on top of that, his tackling got better. And the hard thing to do as a safety, especially as one like Todd Harris, who has gone through these knee injuries and started his career on the bench behind Jacoby and Grant and had to wait his turn, is when you see a safety starting to get his confidence up like that, it's very interesting. We also know Todd Harris has some limitations. He's not a sideline-to-sideline guy. It's just not his game, okay? So speed is a concern there. Ironically, he was the fastest of the 3 safeties who played last season for LSU, which is not good. And I think Ryan Clark has brought this up. And obviously, he knows way more about this than I do, that LSU, Todd Harris's strong point is not his athleticism. With that said, he can be a very serviceable safety in the SEC, and he's obviously someone that you can root for. And, even though Damon Clark is wearing the number 18 uniform, Todd Harris would be a very good number 18 candidate himself. Let's go to Graylin. What returning player benefits the most from the new coaching hires? Perfect question, Graylin. And the answer, beyond reasonable doubt, and I mean beyond reasonable doubt, is MYLES BRENNA, okay? Because I think 2 different coaches are really going to help him out if he is a starter, of course. And this goes into 2 or 3 is not good as one's question a minute ago about Max Johnson, MYLES BRENNA, or whatever. So a better offensive line, without a doubt, makes both the quarterbacks better. I'm not, before anyone misconstrues what I'm about to say, don't get it twisted. Max Johnson would prefer to play behind a good offensive line. With that said, Max Johnson is the better quarterback if the offensive line is horrible, okay? Because he's going to open up some things in the running games because he's going to hold that defensive end, and that opens up holes in the running game, and it helps out your offensive line. So 2 things are going to happen. I think Jake Peetz is going to help both the quarterbacks, And on top of that, I think Brad Davis coming in and making this offensive line smarter, making them process information quicker, making them more athletic, I think that'll go a long way. And the thing is, if an offensive lineman blows a blitz assignment, guess what? More than likely, the quarterback you're going to have back there is going to get sacked. However, Max Johnson versus blitzers is a lot better proposition than Myles Brennan going up against blitzers. So yes, without a doubt, Graylin, I would say Myles Brennan benefits the most if he is the quarterback. Now, let's go, outside the box here, because it's interesting that all three levels of the defense has a new coach, and two levels of the LSU offense, quarterback, and I throw in the offensive line has new coaches as well. Let's see, another player who can benefit from this. I think John Emery's someone that could. I think Jake Peets' background, obviously with receiving running backs, he coached arguably the best one in the NFL for a season. I think that's going to help out John Emery. John Emery's proven on his high school tape that he can be a good receiver out of the backfield. He was LSU's best receiver out of the backfield amongst the running backs, but he didn't have a game where he had more than 30 yards receiving, which is concerning considering in the past we've had pretty good running backs who can catch out of the backfield. Obviously, Clyde's the best when it comes to that. So, we'll see. So I think John Emery can also benefit not only from Jake Peets, but also Brad Davis himself. What's up, Dwayne? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy. See, Clint, me and my wife, Cheryl Phillips, love watching your show together. We love how you keep your show real and you stay out the drama. Yeah, Clint, I don't get into media drama. Like, I see this, a lot amongst YouTube channels and drama and all. It's just, I just try and focus on what I do. But yeah, thank you for the compliment. I really do appreciate that. I know a lot of you are ready to see the puppy. It is not my fault. Okay. I have to wait for Hey. Okay. It's just, I promised her that. But the new puppy is coming. Okay. It's not too late. My 12-year-old nephew, Weston McGrath, won a national weightlifting championship today. And Mick, you dropped this an hour 37 into the chat. JJ, what's going on? I'm just so excited to see JJ. I know you've been busy helping out the oh, okay. JJ comes in and the super chats start flying in. We go straight to Tony. What's up, JJ? I know you work a lot of Saturday nights, and we appreciate all the work you do in those Shreveport hospitals, man. Yeah, I know, JJ, and you get to see our new puppy in just a second, okay? Blame, hey. Okay, so Tony asked a really good question here. We missed our rematch with Texas. I love these super chats that bring in an outside-the-box topic. I really do like it, as long as it's LSU football related, of course, or Kenny Chesney related. Yes, as Nolan said, no one's going to get this joke through. The dog has already been shown. Kidding. No. Jeremy, you got to go to the Texas game. Okay. So, Tony, if you don't mind me, I'm going to share you the most frustrated I've ever been about a football game. So, I got asked to cover the LSU Texas game, and I was going to get to be on the, I cover a lot of games. I didn't cover any last year. I don't know if I'm going to cover any this year, but I got asked to freelance the game. And, what I do is I go to the games, I cover it, do updates or whatever, and interview the players after the game. And that's my background. Okay. So I've covered more LSU football games than I've actually gotten to go to as a fan. So for the LSU Texas game, I got offered that opportunity, and they were going to cover my travel and all this stuff. And then a few days before the game, they said, well, we regret to tell you, we already have someone else covering the game. And they're doing the job that we were going to get you to do. And I cried, especially when the 3rd and 17 happened. I cried that I was happy that the 3rd and 17 happened, but I also cried because I would have been on the field for that play. The field. So I'm jealous of you, Jeremy. You got to be in the building. I've always wanted to go to, what's it called now? It's now Williams-Campbell Stadium or Campbell-Williams Stadium. I just think it's cool. To see McConaughey, all that stuff, I think it would have been cool. But anyway, that's a personal story. I wanted to get that out there. I always get triggered when 2019 LSU Texas. So obviously, this is a really good question here from Tony. Do you think we need to schedule Texas again? I think yes, because this game was sold out. It was a huge rivalry between neighbors. Okay. So I know we have some really old school LSU football fans in here. All right. And a lot of you remember, the 60s, the 70s a lot more. So LSU and A&M used to be a bigger deal. And obviously, LSU Ole Miss has a lot of history. LSU Texas is a little bit different as far as their history is concerned. But obviously the 2019 game was great. Now, the LSU Texas 2020 game being canceled really hurt LSU in recruiting, because the LSU Texas game from last season was the scheduled visit of the Brockermeyer brothers, the 5-star and the 4-star twins on the offensive line. And that sucked. LSU didn't get to have that official visit in front of a packed Tiger Stadium. Going up against a Texas team, who knows what would have happened in that second game, how different the season would have been. So that obviously sucks as far as the 2020 game is concerned. Would I like the game to get rescheduled? Yes, absolutely. I would love to see him in a bowl or whatever. However, you look at the off-season scheduling that we have coming up, Tony, unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen. So LSU plays UCLA, obviously this year, and then you get Florida State for 2 seasons, and then you get UCLA again, and then you have Oklahoma, and then you have Clemson in those years right there. I know 2025 and 2026 is going to be Clemson, a home and home at both the Death Valleys, which is going to be really cool. So the Texas game, Tony, in actuality, the Master Blaster, okay? What's up, Paris? I'm telling you, Paris is always going to join, not an hour into the live stream, no earlier than an hour 42 in. Ironically, this is Paris's earliest jump into the live stream. What's up, Paris? Good to hear from you. So yeah, it's interesting, Tony, that we're probably not going to get an LSU Texas rematch, which is kind of fine with me. I'm fine with 3rd and 17 haunting Texas fans for the rest of their existence, even though it is kind of cool to see iconic college football brands in your home stadium. It's the heart of college football. Neutral sites, it just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't. I'm not opposed to neutral site games because economically it makes sense and everyone makes money and we get really good marquee matchups, and those marquee matchups wouldn't happen unless, of course, the neutral site game wasn't a thing. So it was cool seeing LSU and Lambeau and whatever. But still, I think it's really cool to say that, I grew up watching Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was a big deal to me because of Michael Vick. Michael Vick was unlike anything I've ever seen. So when those Virginia Tech helmets were in Tiger Stadium, it was really cool. It was really cool to see that brand. However, it's just different when you see it in a neutral site. And obviously, you think of a lot of out-of-conference brands that have not gotten to come to Tiger Stadium. That kind of sucks. I think it would be really cool to have freaking Clemson in Tiger Stadium. Obviously, that's however many years away, but that's just really freaking cool. And if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what does. So obviously, it sucks. We're not going to get Texas and Tiger Stadium, and the Brockermeyer brothers would have visited and all that stuff. But Tony, I hate to say it, I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Now, here's the thing, Tony, and this gets into a different argument that always divides the chat. Will a 12-team playoff, will that change how we view scheduling? will teams be more open, knowing that they're going to have more wiggle room to schedule out of conference teams? Now, I am anti 12-team playoff, but I will happily trade a 12-team playoff. Well, actually, not happily. I'm still going to be against it. However, Tony, I really hope that a 12-team playoff opens up more doors for that. Tell me this. How cool would it be to see Oregon in Tiger Stadium? Or how cool would it be to see LSU play in Autzen? You know, I get told all the time that a lot of LSU fans, their favorite road trip ever was going to Washington. It's just cool. It's just cool because, you know, we had this 12-game season and, you know, we don't get to see many teams. You know, I just think it'd be better. I really do. I know, Leonard. Paris just graduated. She went to Miami with her friends for that one weekend. And then since then, Paris, I think Paris found another LSU channel. And it's okay, Paris. That's fine. Paris graduated. And yeah, I think that's it, Leonard. I think that. Oh, did you get to go, G. Lou? Oregon is irrelevant? Really? Oregon's irrelevant? Really good. They might have the number one pick in the NFL draft on their team next season. I know, Leonard. Paris going to other channels. I remember this. Paris, you won't believe this. Haley and I were at Velvet Taco a few days ago. And we brought you up in conversation. We're like, yeah, there's only one other viewer on PHL that has had the magic of Velvet Taco, the best taco shop in the freaking country. It's Velvet Taco. And they're in Dallas and they're in Atlanta. And Paris is in Atlanta. And I was like, oh, my God. And then I was like, hey, you know what's funny? Paris, she never jumps in the chat anymore until an hour 42 in. And we're all tired. And then, oh, yeah. Amacat working full time again. I totally get it. As we always say. Let's see here. So, Tony, let me know. I think this game was sold out and was a huge rivalry between neighbors. Okay. Something else, and this is obviously very important to keep in mind, is we are not Texas A&M's rival. We are not Texas's rival. And someone else brought this up. We need to come up with a name for the LSU A&M rivalry. I am anti-rivalry unless it's authentic. Okay. It's got to be authentic. It's got to just be its own thing. All right. So right now, LSU's rival is Florida. It's Florida. We hate each other's fan bases. I just don't think LSU and Alabama hates each other more than LSU and Florida hates each other. I really don't. Outside of course, you know, Ed Orgeron, the Roll Tide, what F you, and then the, you know, this is our house on the Alabama A. That's about it. You know, that win had more to do with our struggles the years prior and the national championship than it had to do with LSU and Alabama hatred. Whereas the LSU Florida hatred is a little more visceral. It's a little more under your skin. Not going to lie, I've been to Tuscaloosa, I believe, for 2 games, if not 3. Never had an issue with an Alabama fan. Went to a Florida game once, got hit by a frozen corn dog, watched 3 separate fights. It was hellacious. And the thing was, we got slaughtered. It was the 08 game. Wasn't even a close game. It was still very visceral. So, yeah. Let's go to Big Al. Thank you for the super chat, Dan. Yeah, and look, Big Mac, LSU and A&M is not a rivalry. It's not. Do you think with a 12-team playoff in place, we should go back to before there was an East and West in the SEC and the best 2 teams played all? I agree with you, Big Al. I hate divisions. I think conferences are needed. Divisions are not needed in college football. And the more divisions you have in sports, the dumber it becomes. Okay. Divisions don't make any sense, really, because you're all playing in the same league. So why should LSU be penalized for playing in a far tougher division, whereas Georgia and Florida are in a way easier division? And the same thing applies for Alabama and Auburn and A&M. Okay. The East is nowhere close to being as good as the West. And that doesn't include the fact that the bottom half of the West is better than the bottom half of the East. So if I were the SEC, I would get rid of the divisions and just have a more balanced schedule. Now, of course, if you do that, you're not going to have the same traditional matchups every single year. So be it. Okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. Bill Connolly, I actually like his idea a lot. Brought up the idea of SEC teams only having 3 permanent teams, and then every season you're rotating teams more often. I think that's great. I bring this up a lot, Big Al. Go back to 2018. One of the best underrated wins of the Joe Burrow era was LSU beating Georgia. Now, of course, LSU was at home, but that Georgia team was really good, and LSU didn't have quite the same home field advantage because there were a lot of Georgia fans at Tiger Stadium that day. And the reason why there was a lot of Georgia fans at Tiger Stadium that day is because Georgia only goes to Tiger Stadium once every 12 years. And Georgia doesn't play as many marquee games as LSU does per season, simply because LSU plays in the West. So you're playing Alabama, Auburn, and all these teams every season. And Georgia plays a lot of marquee teams as well. But what happened was that year, LSU also had a lot of really high-profile home games. So LSU fans, of course, sold their tickets for a lot of money to Georgia fans. I remember so many of my friends that are season ticket holders that sold their tickets. And the reason why they sold their tickets is because Georgia fans, this is a bucket list thing. You're not guaranteed another 12 years to come back to Tiger Stadium. So, it's stupid. It's downright stupid. Why do you even have conferences when, you have this stupid cross-division rival rule? So, obviously I'm not Greg Sankey. I would get rid of the divisions. I really do. I think it would make it fair. I think it'll make it better. And I understand that we wouldn't have the same traditional teams. So we wouldn't be playing Auburn every season, and we wouldn't be playing for the Battle of the Golden Boot every season. And, there's different matchups that mean more to certain people. I just think get rid of it. Get rid of the divisions. That's right, JJ. What's interesting is Oregon has had a lot of skill guys that just did not translate to the NFL. God, what was the name of their Dennis Dixon? Who remembers Dennis Dixon was a baller, flat out baller. Didn't do anything in the league. They had LaMichael James, Kenyon Barner. I hate UF more than any other team. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. I do too. Gary Danielson was the biggest. Yeah, it's. I used to talk to Gary quite a bit. He always came and did my interview at SEC Media Days, which was really cool because, when I was doing radio, I wasn't one of the big shows there. I wasn't Jocks 94. I wasn't SEC Network or anything like that. But it was always cool. I like Gary Danielson. I really do. I know my mom hates Gary Danielson. She flat out hates him. Oregon is a gimmick school. Stick to track. Really, Tony? You're going to insult Dana Altman like that? Come on. DeAnthony Thomas. But really, someone look this up for me. Who is Oregon's best skill position guy in the NFL? Offense or defense? Who is their best skill guy in the NFL? I'm trying to think. Mariota didn't work. They've had all these ballers at skill positions. You really think about it. How many skill guys has Oregon had succeed in the NFL? God, I can't think. I can't think right now. You know what's funny? LeGarrette Blount. Yeah, LeGarrette Blount. Okay. Oh, man. Oh, LeGarrette Blount, such a legend. Okay. Forced his way out of Pittsburgh to go to New England to win the Super Bowl. But obviously, he had that punch against Boise State. You guys remember that? He knocked that. He hit that guy so hard, but I don't think that guy fell out. I'm trying to remember. That was LeGarrette Blount, right? He had that sucker punch on that dude against Boise State. And I think that was when Twitter really started getting bigger. So I think that was one of the first like viral fight clips of players. Patrick Chung, Graylin, yes. So obviously Justin Herbert, but we'll see. It's only a year in. But I'm really thinking, I was like, all these skill guys that they've had. I would say Patrick Chung was the best. Safety. And I guess LeGarrette Blount. Yeah, Blount punched that guy. It was a Boise. That's so wild. It was so. And what was crazy was that was like the first time that, and I think it was week 1, so there wasn't a lot of news, and they kept showing that clip over and over and over again. And I hated it. Okay. One guy got caught up in the heat of the moment. Okay. LeGarrette Blount's punch is nowhere close to Jimbo Fisher, his nephew or whatever, punching a guy with Parkinson's. Okay. Now, I'm not endorsing LeGarrette Blount punching another player. My point is that I just remember that clip was just everywhere. Okay, well, it's 1:57 in. I always like to spice it up in the chat. I want you to put your objective LSU hat on, okay? I want you to be as objective as you possibly can right now, all right? We don't talk LSU NFL a lot. Tell me this. If you had a quarterback for the next decade in the NFL, are you picking Herbert or are you picking Burrow? Okay? Type H for Herbert, type B for Burrow. And I want you to give me objective analysis. Objective. Type H for Herbert, type B for Burrow. I get a sip. Morgan, you changed your name. I still can't believe you punched. And it's still, that's still so crazy. That game was still so stupid. Dang. Burrow, Chesney, Herbert. That's so funny. Carvis, yeah. Carvis, look, JJ's not been in here in a while, man. Don, I love it. I love it. Let's see. Be all day? Interesting. So, you guys chose the quarterback who didn't win Rookie of the Year, the quarterback who's coming off a colossal leg injury, a quarterback whose offensive line is still up in the air, a quarterback who is playing for a head coach I don't know if a lot of you believe in, and I understand this isn't current LSU. Whenever you talk LSU NFL, I don't know why. My analytics show that you guys don't care. But obviously you guys care about this topic, so we'll spend some time, okay? We're also all picking Joe Burrow, despite being in a tougher division, okay? So you take the Chargers, the Raiders are bad. The Broncos passed on Justin Fields to take Patrick Surtain, really? And the Chiefs, while they're good, there's a lot of issues they need to fix. So, yeah. Whereas the AFC North, the Steelers are still loaded. The Ravens are still loaded with our guy Patrick Queen. And the Browns, it's kind of weird that a lot of us care more about the Bengals because Joe's on there. But the Browns, probably the most LSU-heavy team in the NFL. I'm still taking Joe Burrow. I still am. Look, Justin Herbert's great, right? I do think, though, with Justin Herbert, there was some regression from the first part of the season towards the end of the season. That could just be me. I haven't really looked too much into it. I follow the NFL well. Okay, I'm not obviously not as big in college as I am in NFL. Okay, all right. Also, I'm wearing the Tiger shirt tonight. I'm fired up tonight, guys. I know, Morgan. I still haven't made my shelf for the new background. But yeah, I objectively speaking, I'm still taking Joe Burrow. Look, there's something to be said about getting Jamar Chase into your lineup. I think Jamar's special. Now, is he going to be better than Keenan Allen? Well, Keenan Allen is a different type of wide receiver than Jamar Chase. Not going to lie, I think based on what I've seen, I think Jamar Chase will be the best NFL player off the 2019 roster. I think he's that good. I really do. So obviously that's going to help out Joe. Hey, babe.
I'm on my way.
Okay.
Tell him to hang tight. Give me 8 minutes and I'll be there.
All right, guys. You're about to see the new dog. Okay. I will see you in a bit.
All right. Bye.
Haley's on her way. So, yeah, I think Joe's going to get Jamar. I think Jamar's going to open up this offense. We also need to hope and pray. I did not like the Bengals getting Jackson Carman. How great was Clemson's offensive line these last couple of seasons? So, yeah, objectively speaking, I think based on the external factors, Justin Herbert seems like the better option. I just can't go against Joe Burrow, guys. I just can't. And yes, Herbert has a better arm. And yes, Herbert is probably the better athlete. But Joe's got it. Joe's got it. Pocket presence, I give Joe the huge advantage here. Joe Burrow's pocket presence, I don't know many quarterbacks that I've ever seen at any level have Joe Burrow's pocket presence. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL who don't have good pocket presence. Joe Burrow had that in year one behind a really bad offensive line. So he doesn't, as many of you know from the 2019 team, he doesn't need unbelievable protection. He doesn't need Anthony Munoz and Orlando Pace and Willie Roaf and insert legendary offensive lineman. He doesn't need those guys, right? He just needs something. Now, obviously, the player that Jamar Chase is always going to get compared to is Penei Sewell, all right? Penei Sewell is going to be a really good NFL offensive lineman. And there's a huge piece of me that looks at the history of, I've looked into different arguments between Chase and Sewell. Okay, I'm not going to make this a Chase and Sewell thing, right? It's already happened. I think we're all happy that Jamar's with Joe. I think that's going to be great. I think a lot of us are going to get a tingly feeling whenever we see them play together because those two, especially the Clemson game, made us the happiest we've probably ever been on the planet Earth. But I do think Jamar is going to be special. I really do. I objectively speaking, and as many of you know, there were some really good players at LSU I didn't think translated to the NFL. I'm on the record sharing my concerns about Kayvon Chase on at the NFL level, and his first season was not that great with the Jaguars. once again, it was year one. Year two can be a lot different. So there are some guys that I like a lot at the next level. There's some guys that I don't. And Jamar Chase is someone that I love at the next level. And I think he's going to be special. And I think him and Joe are going to be great. And you add Jamar with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, just give me some protection. Just give me an offensive lineman that can breathe and occasionally block. And I think Joe's going to be great. Now, I also understand AFC North. Okay, the AFC North is better, right? Maybe. All right, take it to the AFC North. First thing, the Steelers are getting old. Mike Tomlin really discouraged me with this decision-making last season in that Browns playoff game. The Steelers, while they are really talented, while they are a really focused franchise, and Mike Tomlin has been one of the best coaches in the NFL, not that buttoned up, which is very interesting considering, Tomlin's teams in the past have been that very thing. And I don't know. I don't know about the Ravens. We'll see what happens there. And obviously the Browns probably have, the best coach in I'll say this. They have the most innovative offensive coach in the division. And I don't know if Zach Taylor can coach a lick, but we'll see. We saw Joe Burrow have some big games last season. The Tennessee game was a masterclass in quarterback play, but still, lots to be out there. Yeah. I'm just a big Jamar guy. I'm just a huge Jamar Chase fan. I just love his attitude. I love his outlook on life. I just love this guy. I really do. And, there's something to be said about his Clemson National Championship game. And I know this isn't current LSU. Hear me out, though. The most interesting thing about the LSU Clemson game, and, I've really evaluated this game really close. What's very fascinating was, we talk so much about Jamar Chase dominating A.J. Terrell. But the first two drives of the game, that wasn't the case. A.J. Terrell locked him up. So it wasn't just the LSU offense that had to get over the hurdle of the slow start. So the first two drives of that game, LSU was deep in their own territory, and Clemson was applying a lot of exotic blitzes. But ultimately, that game came down to Jamar Chase saying, look, I'm not going to let you lock me up for a full game. And that essentially was the difference. It was Jamar saying, I'm going to roast the heck out of whoever Clemson puts in front of me if you don't put safety help over the top. And that's exactly what happened. And, Jamar and Joe really put us on their backs. And, you should forever be grateful. And after that game, 9 catches, 221 yards, 2 TDs, and he dropped a dagger in the fourth. Imagine if Jamar had caught that last touchdown. That stat line would have been different. It would have been probably because he did catch another pass after it, so the score would have changed, but that line would have been 9 for 250 and 3, which is ridiculous. Honestly, it's ridiculous. Against NFL defensive backs. Kavon Wallace went to the NFL. A.J. Terrell went to the NFL. Brent Venables, one of the great defensive coordinators in the modern era of college football. Jamar did that thing. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I know there's a lot of people that say, well, Jamar doesn't win off the line of scrimmage as quickly, and he's not as sharp of a route runner as Justin Jefferson. And those things are probably true. But the one thing we can say about wide receivers, whether it was Jerry Rice or Calvin Johnson, or all the way down to Julian Edelman or whoever you want to mention, different wide receivers win in different ways. And Jamar Chase just freaking wins. He'll out-physical you. He'll out-jump you. He'll burn you. He'll look you in the eye and crush your soul. He's crazy. He's absolutely insane. And I think after he goes for 5 or 6 Pro Bowls and whatever else accolades are going to come his way, I think we'll look back and say, God, Jamar was probably even better. And he won a Biletnikoff and caught 23 passes as a true freshman. But, I just think he just really jumps off. Jared, you're out. The dog is about to come. No, Graylin, that's a different Zach Taylor. This is Zach with the C, no H. JJ, I'm sorry. I don't want to get into Tebow. Other than the fact that we dominated Tebow in 07 and 08 was not the same story, but that's all I got to say about it. You know what's weird? I'm glad you brought him up, JJ. That 09 Tebow game was so strange. Charlie Strong just dominated us. That was a 13-3 ball game. The whole story was about Tebow overcoming a concussion, when in actuality, it wasn't even Urban Meyer. It was Charlie Strong. He was a defense coordinator of Florida at the time. God, that coaching staff was good. Urban and Charlie. Now, revisionist history, it's kind of crazy what we know about the Florida team now and the personalities were on the team. I always say this, the best Florida Gator on that team was not Tebow. It was Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin. I mean, Percy Harvin was Tyrann Mathieu on offense. That guy did some things that you just don't see human beings do. So I was a big Percy fan, but that's it. Yeah, Terrace was so interesting. I know, Tony, and I feel like Terrace Marshall, if he was watching this, or our Shreveport viewers would be like, look, Carter, we understand you're a big Jamar guy, and we understand you love Justin, but how can you not mention our guy Terrace?
What's he doing?
Okay, all right, guys. Who's ready? Who's ready? The new mascot of PHL. Okay. All right. This is big, guys. This is going to be emotional. Percy Harvin coaches Florida's team to Urban Meyer. Okay, here's what we're going to do before we get in the chat. Okay? Finally. Tony, you're a Shreveport guy? I knew it, Tony. Actually, I didn't. Actually, I knew you were a Shreveport guy prior.
Just let her down for a second.
Let her down for a second.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
This is big.
You've been playing.
Okay. Have you guys been thinking about what type of dog this is?
I would love to know.
Who? All right, I think they're ready. Alan's not ready.
Ready?
All right, come on. And the new dog of PHL is right here. Everyone say hi. Everybody. What do y'all think? In honor of the great Bug the dog. Look at this.
This is Cece girl. What's he doing?
Look at that. Oh, man. So everyone welcome. Oh, man, I'm getting, this is the first dog. Well, we held,
I'm serious.
well, come on. We held Teddy
Yeah.
in Alabama. Make sure we don't get caught up in
Her tail.
All right. So, exactly, Kay. So this is a multi-poo, and her name, guys, is Z. Z. So ZEE is the name right there. Z. And we're happy to have Z here. Obviously, this is,
She slept so good last night.
Yeah, so we went and
slept all night.
We picked her up in Dallas, and Haley and I cried a little bit because Boog was such a big part of the channel, and we discussed getting another dog for the channel, but I feel as if
Oh goodness.
I feel as if Boog is happy that we have another dog for the channel, and I know. So yes, are the E's silent? So yes, it's just Z. Z-E-E.
Her middle name is she's named after Bernie.
She is also partially named after Bernie. So Z's been great. We've had her for just over 24 hours now. And look at that. And Haley and I are very happy to have Z. So here's what's very interesting is Z will start making Bugs appearances on the channel. So you will get to Z we'll get to Z. You will get to see Z on every live chat from this point forward. And she is a multi-poo.
Hers a multi-poo.
Yeah, you see, Amacat, you couldn't say no. So everyone welcome Z to Power Hour LSU. We're really excited. And of course, all the generous super chats we've gotten tonight will go towards Z's, checkup on Monday. And
goodness.
I know. And she's obviously really excited to be a part of it. Graylin, I actually do like the name Z a lot. Z, let's go. Thank you, Mo Funky, for that. We appreciate you. It's really cool. And as you guys know, the live streams have not been the same without Boog. So come on. Boog was such a big part of our live streams, and hey, we were just super excited to have Z right here.
She's been a good girl.
She's been great.
She's so
There's JJ.
She's so fun to watch.
No question. Just congrats on the new puppy and buy her a treat from Uncle JJ. We miss you, bud.
We miss her every day.
Oh my God. Michael, as you know, those vet bills can sneak up on you. So yeah, we actually got Z from a very respectable breeder, and Z has been so well behaved, and we're really excited. We're really excited. What's up, Esteban? Esteban, you join in at the perfect time to see the new puppy. Oh my God, we are so excited. We are so excited. Z has been fantastic. Thank you. Hey, Yusha came back tonight. Tonight was his first live stream in a while.
And
Muttley.
you get to see the baby. She's so tiny.
She's so tiny.
Perspective. This is his head.
Okay.
And he's got a large head.
Right. Anyway, yes. See, Michael B, you understand. $400 for the last round of shots. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. So yeah, we're gonna go put Z back and
let her run around.
Let her run around.
Actually, it's a pin.
Where you going?
And she really likes.
She didn't eat anything.
She really likes to sit down right next to me on this carpet.
She's very attached to him already.
Yeah. So Z has been by my side. So yeah, exactly. 2 or 3 not good as one. So thank you, JJ. Thank you, Yusha, for the support. And as dog owners know, getting Z on the vet schedule and the right food, we're having to buy a bunch of new pins and stuff like that. And toys and all that. So all your super chats are going to Z for this next month, and I really do appreciate it. So yeah, let's see. That was emotional. Because it's just weird, right? Because Boog was such a Boog. She's on our bands that were getting made. Boog wears number 7. See, so yeah, it's cool. Esteban always comes in like Paris. I hate Paris. Didn't get to see it. So yeah. Wow, that was cool. That was really cool. We were so excited. We were talking about that on the whole way back from Dallas. We're so excited. And then we posted the photo on our community page. I don't know if you guys saw it, of Tyron Matthew and his dogs. And he's big on dog safety and all that as well. So that's so cool.
Maybe I'm going to move her food and water in here for a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. We need depth at the quarterback position when we're getting it, baby. Got Nuss and Walker Howard. We're pretty set there. And I understand, for those that are just joining us, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I know Nick is still in here. He's a big recruiting guy. Once again, Yusha and JJ. JJ, you get to pick the next question. Yusha, you get to as well. Yusha, I know you just like to support and just keep the discussion going. So yes, JJ, you get to ask the next question. It could be recruiting. It could be anything. One final thing, though, on Jamar Chase, it is crazy that Justin Jefferson had the year that he had last season. I still think Jamar is going to be unbelievable. I really do. Let's celebrate with some Kenny Chesney music in the background. Yeah, I don't think I have any. What kind of dogs does TM7 own? I don't know, Emma Cat. It looked like on his lap it was like a little poodle, but TM7 did that famous PSA they checked to see how long he could last in a hot car. And he could only last 8 minutes without any water or anything. And it was a PSA to not keep your dogs in a hot car. So, yeah. But yes, Z is a multi-poo and Z is a she. Let's see. She's a chewer. She's been chewing up my shoes all day. Thank you, Dwayne, for the nice, generous Cash App here. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, Dwayne. So you get Dwayne and JJ, you get to pick the next topic. Whatever your next topic is, we immediately go to it.
I wish they could see how really small she is.
Oh, we'll shoot some. It is kind of crazy.
How little she is.
Do we have like a...
I don't know what to compare it to other than your head. Look at her getting my dress. She really is a good dog so far.
Let me see. Hand me the croc. I think that croc. That's a size.
What is that? 12? 12, 13.
That's crazy. So hold Z up next to this.
Hold on. Her's got her toy. She TT'd on the rug in there.
She TT'd on the rug?
That's okay.
So look at Z. She's so little. She's licking the mic. Oh my goodness.
You're a big girl.
I don't think Boog ever licked the mic.
No, Boog. Come on, Z.
Thank you, Z. I appreciate that. That's fine. Just let her go where she wants to go. That was so fantastic. That it's still wild though. Like Z is 2 pounds. 2 pounds.
2 pounds, 2.5 ounces.
2 pounds.
2.5 ounces.
DRC, we were talking about you a little bit earlier.
Looky. Hey.
Max should back up Miles in case he fails. Yeah, Muttley, I know a lot of people have that line of thinking. I do think for me, the best thing to do is just play the best quarterback. I think if you start getting into transfer portal gymnastics for any player, I don't think that should be the basis for your decision. So, yeah. Okay, so Dwayne with the first super chat question. Once again, JJ and Yusha, the floor is still yours. We go to Dwayne. How do you view the 2022 class and how it finishes? Great question, Dwayne. So obviously, the big recruiting news of the week was obviously the Louisiana quarterback Eli Holstein committing to Texas A&M, but he's 2023. So as far as 2022 is concerned, Dwayne, the first thing you have to ask yourself is this. How many of the LSU prospects right now decommits from LSU when they go somewhere else? Well, the first thing is I don't see many. I think Jacoby, Walker, and Will are pretty much locked in as 3 Louisiana 5-stars, especially with Walker and Will being committed. And those are obviously the 3 most important players in the class, your 5-star Louisiana players. We've done studies on this. We've shown you guys this. If John Emery doesn't ball out this season, he's going to be the first Louisiana 5-star that did not work out in a long time. So, the bottom line is this: Louisiana 5-stars win you a lot of games. Now, what's she doing?
Cord. Look below that. I can't come in there right now.
Oh, don't chew my cord, Z. Come on. No.
I'll get her just a second. I'm just getting the dress off.
Z started chewing the power cords. So she's going to be here for right now. But the first thing is Will and Walker and Jacoby are your most important players, okay? Then after that, your next most important player, Dwayne, you should focus in on is obviously Emory Jones. He is just incredible. He's a 4-star offensive lineman in the state of Louisiana. For those that follow recruiting, that's the Mo Funkies, that's the Knicks of the world. The most important thing is Louisiana doesn't produce a lot of elite offensive linemen. The only position LSU lacks behind other universities is offensive line. Quarterback looks pretty good for the future. That used to be the only other position. Outside of that, we're pretty much top 5, top 10 at every position in college football of the past decade or so. So now that we've gotten that taken care of, you start looking past Emory Jones. Can we get a 4-star offensive lineman or a 5-star offensive lineman out of state? And whenever you look at players like that, that comes down, Dwayne, to a few names here. So obviously Kelvin Banks is the likeliest 5-star with Louisiana ties to commit to LSU. Does he actually come? I don't know. But if he doesn't come and he goes to Texas A&M, that's a gigantic loss, especially considering Texas A&M has recruited the offensive line so much better than we have in recent years. The next guy is Cam Dewberry, Julian Armella, Malik Agbo. A lot of these 4-star offensive tackle guard types, a lot of that comes down to Brad Davis. Kenny flipping Andrew Chambly, an Arkansas 4-star that he has committed to LSU. Does LSU want a player like that? I would say so. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating there, Dwayne. So the two big things that you should look for with this offensive line recruiting is the first is you need more offensive linemen.
Come on.
Go on ahead, Z.
Come in here with me.
Got a few super
clean the
chats.
kitchen up. Go
on ahead. So we have a we do have a lot of offensive linemen that we got to go after. And, Armella is going to be very interesting, his recruitment. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the big thing for 2022. Where are the huge positions of needs? The huge positions of need in this class. Okay, the positions that LSU, let's just say, once again, JJ, get your question ready. I'll get to it as quickly as we possibly can. Okay? Once again, if we get this offensive line rolling, I really do mean this. If we can get this offensive line thing going, LSU will get back to playoffs. That is the only thing. That is the only position. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't had successful offensive linemen. We've had Lyle Collins. We've had Trey Turner. Okay? We've had, guys that didn't make it to the NFL and were really good. Will Blackwell, whoever you want to mention. Ben Wilkerson, whatever. But still, that is the only position that whenever you bring it up with NFL people or college people, that is the only position where LSU is not in the discussion. Linebacker, we're in the discussion. Defensive back, we lead the discussion. Defensive line, we're in the discussion. Not quite the same way at the other two positions probably, but we're still in that discussion. Then obviously wide receiver, we probably lead that discussion. Running back, we're definitely in that discussion. Quarterback, we're now in the discussion. Offensive line / tight end, we'll see. So, Dwayne, that's obviously the most important thing. Can LSU in this 2022 cycle get some really good offensive linemen? Can we do it? And, it's going to be the question. So, obviously Brad Davis has a lot of things he's got to do. He's got to recruit this position. He's also got to revamp this position. We got to get smarter. We got to get quicker. We got to get with the times. We got to have offensive linemen that can pick up blitzes. Ironically, our 2007 offensive line, we weren't even running this type of offense, was a really good blitz pickup offensive line. I wish we could have that group for this season. Carnell Stewart, Lyle Hitt, Herman Johnson. The center was Brett Helms out of Arkansas. And then at right tackle was Siren Black. No, Siren Black was the left tackle. The right tackle was Carnell Stewart. So that was a really good group. None of those guys had success in the NFL. A really good group. So the thing is having success in the NFL obviously helps with recruiting, helps with your brand, but it's not something that you absolutely need to have. But last season, technique-wise, we weren't great. We weren't in good shape. We couldn't stay healthy. We couldn't pick up blitzes. We couldn't move anyone in the running game. We struggled to develop the backups. We never took out the players that weren't doing great. So there's all these different things, and then you get into recruiting. So, great question, Dwayne. Who do you think we finish with? Okay, So the first name, obviously, is Kelvin Banks. That's going to be the sexy name. It'll be so cool to get a 5-star out-of-state offensive lineman. The last 5-star out-of-state offensive lineman was in 2015, where LSU landed Maya Tuwema. Off the field stuff prevented Maya Tuwema from becoming one of the great LSU offensive lines. His true freshman season, he was incredible. I mean, he was really good. I don't know what the issues were, but he transferred to Southeastern. We never heard from him again. Now, you look at Alabama, you look at LSU, the only position that there is a sizable gap between us and them is that one. That's it. When it's recruiting, when it's development, all those different things. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't had great offensive lines during the Nick Saban reign. It's just Nick Saban's offensive lines, especially these last couple of years, he's going to have another first-rounder this year with Evan Neal. He had Alex Leatherwood the year before. He had Jonah Williams the year before. Or Jonah Williams. He's good. And the only gap between us and them is that position. It's that one. List every other position. We are with them, if not better. So that's going to be it. So I think Dwayne, fingers crossed, Kelvin Banks, fingers crossed, Julian Armella. And then you get into a few names here. And Graylin, you actually super chatted about the offensive line last Saturday, so shout out to you. And that's the thing. And something else, Rain makes a good point here. The thing is, Alabama was able to consistently dominate so many teams because their offensive lines are so good. They are so freaking good year in and year out. And it's not just moving bodies. They are high IQ offensive linemen. One thing that they do a great job of is their offensive line does not commit penalties. So whenever they seal off a defender to the inside, they're really good. And a lot of defenders can flail and draw a holding penalty. They are really good, Alabama, particularly against LSU, ironically. You go back to, let's just say, let's go to 2012. Okay, so 2012 was, the TJ Yeldon breaking our souls game. So Jalen Mills comes from play side blitz. Yeldon slips underneath him, and then there's a screen setup. You go back, Kevin Minter almost made this tackle. But what the Alabama offensive lineman did, I don't remember which one it was, they just sealed him to the inside. So the offensive lineman had the presence of mind to just make Kevin Minter go around him to the inside instead of the outside. And he didn't want to commit a holding penalty in the open field that would have cost Alabama the game. So he just let him without committing the penalty, because a lot of penalties happen when offensive linemen are trying to block faster guys in the open field. And because of that, Alabama didn't draw a penalty. Kevin Minter still almost made the play because he's a beast. But still, they're so good at that. They've done it a lot. There was a play, Alabama's last touchdown of the game against LSU this past season, where the left guard, I can't think of Alabama's left guard's name, he got to the second level. And Micah Baskerville did the same thing Kevin Minter did. He tried to beat him to the inside. The guard did a smart thing. He just let him try to go inside, didn't really block him. Even though Baskerville almost made the tackle, you couldn't get there. Najee Harris walked into the end zone unblocked. Our run fits were absolutely horrible on that play. Glenn Logan jumped to the opposite side A-gap for whatever reason. It's a Bo Pelini defense for you. So, we got to get, personally, we got to get better on our run fits, but the Alabama offensive line, not only are they strong, not only are they really athletic, not only do they produce a lot of guys into the NFL, I just slobbered, they're also really smart. Okay. So, there's just so much we got to fix there. So, Dwayne, that is the most important thing for the 2022 class. Now, the next thing, okay, so JJ, your question is above. Let me finish this one final thing, because obviously, Dwayne, I think Come here. Obviously, Dwayne, the next important thing is what is the next position of need? And I'm going to give you one more, Dwayne, that I think is a little bit bigger than we want to give it credit for. Don't whine. Oh, she's jumping on my leg. The next position of need is linebacker. It's such a huge position of need. We've got to fix the linebacker, and this is why. So let's say Bug Strong goes out there and dominates. Let's say Mike Jones goes out there and dominates. Even though that they have multiple years of eligibility left, they can go to the NFL. So you look at that, Damon Clark's gone, Micah Baskerville's gone. We can have a linebacker room of just Josh White and Antoine Sampa. Is she ready to go? All right.
Come on.
I'm going to answer a few of these.
You're fine.
So linebacker's a huge position of need. We've got to do better. We have got to do better at recruiting that position, which is why Harold Perkins is a big position of need, which is why you look at Louisiana. We don't have any four-star linebackers in the 2022 cycle, Dwayne, but there's two guys you got to keep an eye out for. Khalif Edwards, who is moving up the ranks, and I'm a little bit higher on JaVale Gilmore than most. I know he's a little light. He's only 190, but we're talking about a 4.0 GPA kid with long arms, lines up at safety, lines up defensive end, really good on special teams. We were talking about the Louisiana Bootleggers earlier. JaVale Gilmore played wide receiver for the Bootleggers and defense. So we're talking about an athlete that's going to give you a lot of value on special teams. I like him a little bit more than most, simply because I know I'm getting a high floor player and potentially a high ceiling player. I like JaVale Gilmore a lot. So, that's going to be huge as well. But honestly, Harold Perkins and Sean Murphy are the two names there. And Harold Perkins right now is my number one player in the class of 2022. And that includes everyone. That includes Walter Nolan, everyone. A little bit higher than Harold Perkins and most as well. What's up, Whitetail? So let's go to JJ's question here. Let me find it. Thank you, Roger, for the super chat. We're going to get through a few of these. If we have another year like last year, who takes the most blame, coach or the new hire coaches? And if we don't show any progress, do you think they will? Okay. So the hot seat question. All right. Great question. Roger, I appreciate you. That's a really, really nice Vimo. So Roger, you obviously get to pick the next topic after JJ. So look, a lot of it, JJ, comes down to how we lose, if we lose. Okay. If Ed Orgeron goes 10-3, his job is without reasonable doubt safe. If he goes 8 and whatever, that's where you got to start asking questions. And a lot of it comes down to how we lose. The one thing you have to give Ed Orgeron a lot of credit for, and I mean a lot of credit, is that his teams have consistently gotten better as the season has gone on. So while I have been critical of Ed Orgeron and some of the decisions he makes during the course of the game, and some of the personnel decisions he has to make, and the 3-4-4-3, whatever, the one thing you cannot deny is that with 3 different ideas and 3 different types of rosters, 2018, 2019, and 2020, LSU was playing their best ball at the end of the season. Now, that's a sign of a good coach. That's a sign of a good coach. There's something that he does that he gets the teams playing better as they move on. So I think we can all agree that the 2019 team at the end of the season, defensively, they got better. 2020 season, we got better. We won 2 games with a roster of 50 scholarship guys. It's really good. It's really good, especially as a 23-point underdog. Now, a lot of that was self-inflicted wounds with Florida. Who gives a rip? We're really good. We're really good. So, got to give Ed Orgeron a lot of credit for that. However, the one thing that could get him in trouble this next season is if we lose games based on errors from the coaching staff. If we lose multiple games where that kind of stuff happens and we don't make defensive adjustments and we don't make personnel adjustments, then maybe you bring up the question. But barring a 4-win season, Ed Orgeron should remain the coach of LSU for the 2023 season. So a lot of what your question, JJ, comes down to how the actual season plays out. But he's really safe. Ed Orgeron's really safe. Now, is he Nick Saban, Dabo safe? No, nobody is. But he's really safe. So that was Mason Smith, Kinfolk. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's interesting. Jersey numbers change so much in high school. So it's obviously a little different. But yeah. Yeah, Kenny, I also want to throw in Dwayne, let me know in the chat if I answered your question, okay? Let me know, Dwayne, in the chat. I really appreciate your support, man. And also, for those that don't know, Marcus did drop a really generous super chat. I always want to shout Marcus out for his support of the channel, but he was driving, so that's why he's not commenting. He is listening right now, though. So thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was pulling for Austria in the upset too today. It's kind of weird because I couldn't name a player on Italy. I'm dead serious. The Italian team is just so different than Andrea Pirlo, Gigi Buffon, and Francesco Totti. Pirlo is my favorite Italian player of all time. Anyway, so yeah, Dwayne, thank you. I appreciate you so much. JJ, I know that was kind of a roundabout way of answering your question, but so much actually depends on the season. This is my big thing, JJ. This is my big thing. Okay. Oh yeah, Immobile from Lazio. Huh? I don't care if I knock my water bottle over. Lazio. Thank you, Yusha. I love this thing, man. I really do. Lazio. Giorgio, of course. My favorite Lazio player of all time. Verratti. Oh, man. That's crazy, though. Italy is not giving up a goal until that header. Why did the defender lead the near post? Anyway, we continue. Okay, Dwayne. Let me finish this really quickly with Yusha. I'm going with France. They're just so loaded. My favorite player in the world is Kylian Mbappe, even though he doesn't play for Liverpool yet. My big soccer thing. All right, we're 2 hours and 42 minutes into this. Let me get one soccer opinion. I promise I'm going to answer Dwayne. I promise I'm going to follow up with JJ. My big soccer opinion is LeBron James is going to pull some strings as part owner of Liverpool to get his buddy Kylian Mbappe up front with Sadio Mane. And I just hit my table. I shouldn't talk soccer on here, even though I'm passionate about it. Kylian Mbappe for Liverpool, bro, I would go nuts. Mbappe is probably my favorite player of all time. I just love watching him. I just freaking do. Anyway, let's continue here. Now, JJ, let me know if I answered your question okay. Obviously, I think, Durante and Jake Peets, we have to also be honest. Will both of them be home runs? The LSU fan in me says yes. The skeptic in me says at least one of them will be. Just hope it's Jake Peets, right? Because in the modern game, offense far supersedes defense in every way imaginable. And as long as Durante Jones is decent, as long as he prevents explosive plays, we don't need him to be whoever. We don't need him to be prime Wade Phillips or Todd Bowles or whatever. We just need him to be good. So yeah. God, the soccer chat got lit. The soccer chat, I know Bearded Dragon. I'll get back to it. Would you guys support a soccer channel? Apparently, there's a lot of you that would support an international soccer channel. God bless. This is crazy. I didn't think, yes, Rain, this is on you. I didn't think we'd get into Jack Grealish talk. Huh? Oh, man, that's wild. That's wild. I didn't think we'd get down to Grealish. I know Yusha would be all into it. I don't know. Soccer's different. It's amazing, though, the soccer card market has been on fire, too. Soccer collecting's been pretty big. I know, DRC. I know. I'm killing myself, but we're 2 hours and 44 minutes into this. Now, let's go back to Dwayne. JJ, let me know if I answered your question. Okay. And Roger, you did donate. So Roger, you get to pick the next topic as well. But yes, Carver says too much talent for them to not be home runs. It's going to be really hard for me to see Jake Peets not succeeding with DJ Mangus and George Munoz there as well. Now, here's the thing. If DJ Mangus and Jake Peets with Keishon Butte and all his talent does not succeed, then we got to start wondering, Joe Brady must have been really freaking good because this was essentially Joe Brady's hire, if we're going to be honest. So, we'll see what happens. Can we talk Olympic trials? Yeah. So, obviously the biggest star right now is, JJ super chatted. So I'll give you a quick Olympic thing. Obviously Simone Biles is the biggest star of the Olympics. She's the biggest, if she wins gold and everything again, she's going to be, the biggest star since Michael Phelps. She'll arguably probably be even bigger than that, considering gymnastics is probably a little bit bigger than swimming. That's both up in the air. Obviously Richardson, she's a great story. She's a star. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot of Olympic things that I'll get into for now. So yeah. Let me finish up. Pegasus, that's a good question. How come DLs that are recruited as OL aren't considered athletes? Well, it's weird because whenever you think athlete, if you have a category where Kendrick Law is, in the same category as Fitzgerald West, then, is it really the same thing, to be honest? I don't know. But yeah, Fitzgerald West is an athlete. He is being recruited legit at LSU to be an athlete. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Shakari Richardson. She's rose her profile more than anyone else, but Simone Biles is the biggest star in the Olympics, and I don't, no one's close. We're talking about the greatest to ever do it. If of course she wins gold, she's walking around with all the GOAT stuff. I think it's great. I do. They should just call him, Carvis, just lineman. But yeah, that's actually a good question, Pegasus. All right, so I want to follow up on Dwayne's question here. He said, can you give us an idea of who else we signed for 2022? Obviously, this is a really broad question. So what I'll do, Dwayne, is I'll focus mostly on Louisiana. Let's start with the Louisiana prospects I feel good about. Obviously, the guy that's going to make the most noise is Shaz Preston. He's an elite wide receiver. He's really good. There's no other way around it. Now, I understand that some of you think Aaron Anderson's better than Shaz Preston, and guess what I have to say about that? I might actually agree with you on that because Aaron Anderson's really good too, and I understand Bama really wants him as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Shaz Preston's obviously huge. So I do think he ends up signing with LSU. I think you look historically. We've done deep dives on this very thing. Top 100 wide receivers in the state of Louisiana. They turn out to go to the NFL. All right. 12, I believe when I did the metrics, I think since 2001, there were roughly 18 or 19 top 100 wide receivers. 12 of them made it to the NFL. Okay. So if 2 out of every 3 top 100 wide receivers make it to the NFL, and we know this trend according to the 247 composite. That means if you get Shaz Preston, that also means this, that Chris Hilton, Shaz Preston, and Brian Thomas Jr., they were all 3 top 100 wide receivers. That means that one of those Louisiana top 100 wide receivers will make it to the NFL. So obviously Shaz Preston, that's a metric you really have to take in consideration. Yes, of course, we got all these wide receivers committed. Yes, of course, Dakotas Crawford and A.J. Johnson are really good. And, of course, we got Aaron Anderson already locked up.
I knew it.
Potentially.
Here she goes. I knew it.
And then you start looking at some other wide receivers that LSU's interested in for the class of 2022. They offered – his name slips my mind. He's a number 33 ranked player. Marion Walker. They offered him. And he's really good. He's a 3-star, underrated, but he's good. They offered him. There's also some other interesting wide receivers out there, Dwayne. One I like a lot is a track superstar, athlete genetics up and down. His parents are both. We're talking about Olympics. If you want to recruit a track athlete, if you want to recruit the fastest player in the class of 2022, Isaiah Satania might be your guy. He's the number 1 player out of Arkansas, a 4-star wide receiver out of Fayetteville High School. Isaiah Satania was committed to Texas A&M, just decommitted from A&M. Does he flip to Arkansas? I don't know. But his dad and mom were both track stars at LSU. His dad's currently a track and field coach at Texas. So there's a lot of outside factors regarding Isaiah Satania's recruitment. I think he's really good. I do. Especially when you're getting a pure field stretcher. You're getting a guy that flat out flies. Now, a lot of your what are you doing?
She had me and wouldn't let go. I was growling.
Oh, don't do that. So this is obviously very important.
How do you do it?
I really do mean this. You then get into what do you expect your LSU wide receiver room to look like? Okay, because you just got 5 wide receivers in this last class. How much more capital do you want to spend on the wide receiver position? And this is a big wild card. What position does Kendrick Law play? Okay, I think Jake Peets. I really do think Jake Peets would think of Kendrick Law potentially as a running back, even though he plays mostly wide receiver. Which one would he prefer to play? I don't know. So, yeah. Versus I think they've cooled off into Torian McMillan out of Mater Day. West Coast kid. Loves volleyball, I believe. So, I don't think he'll be a part of 2022. And then Graylin brings up the last guy I'll mention here. Evan Stewart. Close with Shaz Preston. Dominant wide receiver. Top 100 player. He's really good. So, yeah, there's a lot of wide receivers LSU can land just in case the disaster scenario happens. Shaz Preston decides to go to another SEC West school. I totally get it. I don't know too many wide receivers that would be thrilled to walk into a wide receiver room that has Malik Neighbors, Shaq Besh, Brian Thomas Jr., Chris Hilton, and Deion Smith, especially if, like a lot of you in the chat bring up a lot, you're high on all 5 of those guys. I don't think there's been anyone that has said that none of you – I mean, when I asked the question, which one of the 5 wide receivers do you like the most, every single one of them has gotten answered a lot. Even Malik Neighbors, who is probably coming into this class with the least amount of hype. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna do this really quickly. We're not unless it's a super chat. I'm not going to discuss Arch tonight because he's going to dominate so much of the buzz. I understand Arch does become a more fascinating prospect for 2023 now that Eli Holstein's at Texas A&M, which leads us to Ricky Collins, who will probably be the most likely quarterback in this class for the 2023 class to go to LSU. Let me know if that answered your question there. There's obviously a lot that I just spat out there. But whenever you give a broad recruiting question, Dwayne, I like it. I just go. I appreciate you. Once again, there's so many different things you can talk about with recruiting. Once again, I do always share this. I just go by what I read and I go by how I evaluate the class. And I think something happens in recruiting is we get caught up so much in the day-by-day lean and crystal ball, and all that information is important. But especially now that the transfer portal is the way that it is now, you really have to start factoring in how good do you actually project this prospect to be? And how does he fit in with the framework of our team and the system that we want to run? And, you got to really put all of that into equation. Walker Howard is 2022, so next year. Ooh. I'm fired up, guys. Oh, Jared, you didn't get to see Z? Oh, yeah, Jared, you left. Oh, man. Z's already made a lot of appearances. We'll get her in a second, Jared. She just went to go eat. ETN class of 2022. I'd like to get him. I'd like to have an ETN. I don't know. I love legendary names in college football, and ETN is such an interesting last name. It's such a legendary name. I'd like for him to be a part of this class. I think Citizen, of course, is a more likely scenario, the running backs. Then you got Holly in the class of 2023. And then once again, a lot of how you view these rooms come down to how you view Kendrick Law. So we'll see. So yeah, DRC. It's interesting the ETN discussion. Look, so ETN was class of 2017, right? So that LSU running backs room. What's ETN class of 2017? I'm being lazy. I don't want to Google it. I know, Graylin. Okay, that I don't know if you caught it, Graylin. I did bring that up in my last Arch video. So yeah, I also did tease this I'm actually glad you brought that up, Graylin. I did tease this in my Walker Howard film study. At the end of the last film study, there is one interesting stat when you compare Walker Howard to Arch Manning. Don't worry, Jared. We're going to bring it back. We're going to bring her back just for you. Now, this is the interesting stat, Arch Manning when compared to Walker Howard. Arch Manning is a rising junior and Walker Howard is a rising senior. But even though Walker Howard is a class ahead of him, Arch Manning I'm pretty sure Arch Manning started as a freshman at Newman High School. And then he also started as a sophomore at Newman High School. And with Walker Howard, as high as I am on his film, we just have 1 year of starter sample. Now, he played, but this was his first year as a starter. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how St. Thomas More looks without Jack Besh, without some of these other great wide receivers they had, Carter Domingue and or Dominique, I don't know how to say his last name, and Carter Arsenault. I like that. You got two Carters on your wide receiver group. I don't know if Arsenault was a junior or senior. But yeah, they lost a lot of really good players. I think Walker Howard's special. I think he's going to be fantastic next season regardless. But it is interesting that Arch has played more. And there was a good reason why Walker Howard didn't start as a sophomore. As we mentioned earlier, Caleb Holstein was the quarterback then, and he went to Louisiana Tech. So it was really good. Oh, versus he. I just answered this. I think it's Harold Perkins. I do. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. He's so good. He's so good. Obviously, how do you view Harold Perkins? Do you view him as a standing edge or whatever? I don't know. But I don't know. He's just good. What's up, 3D the champ? 3D the champ. What's good? Is this your first live chat? Welcome to the channel, man. But yes, I agree with you. I think Walker's going to be so fantastic. I really do. I do versus I do. I really do. I think JoJo Earl is going to really be good. I just don't try and think about it because, you know, I'd feel a little different if JoJo Earl would have gone to like Texas or whatever. But yeah, he's just good. He's really freaking good. Okay, well, 3D, thank you. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, Rain, it hurts. It really freaking hurts, but JoJo can play. He can really freaking play. But, you know, if it does make you guys feel any better, there's not been an out-of-state wide receiver that has been top 6 in receiving yards at LSU since Terrence Tolliver. Okay. There was a few others littered in there. Kadron Boone had a season where he caught 26 passes and D. Anderson caught 20. But outside of that, the last great out-of-state wide receiver LSU had was Terrence Tolliver. So the good thing is JoJo Earl played a position that LSU's always going to be plenty fine at. It's just JoJo Earl is really good at that position. Yeah, Reed, but that's not JoJo Earl's game. That's just not what he does. It's different. It's different. Yeah, DRC, I tend to agree with that. I do. He's a monster. But everyone, really quickly, we want everyone to feel welcome here. Show 3D the champ some love. He's also a Saints fan. Show 3D some love in the chat. Welcome him to the channel. I know you've been a fan of the channel, but it's the first time I see you in the chat. I always want you to feel free to voice your opinion. Just make sure you stay away from Jared, okay? Stay away from Jared. You guys, Cliff's not in here tonight. My own family member. Dwayne says, I missed this comment here. Wiggins made a 3rd trip to Alabama. Are we concerned? Oh, you shouldn't be. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, Graylin, you are a big Saints fan, right? So, Dwayne, I'm sorry for missing this earlier. Once again, Dwayne, thanks for your super chat. No. If Wiggins goes to Alabama, so be it. The only guy that I'm telling you, LSU's so backlogged at defensive end that it's going to be okay. I really do think it's going to be fine if Wiggins decides to go to Alabama. Now, that doesn't mean he's not great. He's really freaking good. You don't want to lose these kind of guys. But, like I always say, if a Louisiana kid goes to Alabama, he must have really wanted to go there. Because if you're a Louisiana kid and you're at LSU, hey, come here.
Oh, she did.
All right, Jared. Here you go. What's good playing it low? I know, and I said JoJo's going to be good. Probably Smith replacement, but I'm over it. He's a go. Yeah, you know. Yeah, Raina. Look, I'm always going to be a Saints fan, but if that's your logic, Rain, you also got to be a Browns fan too. What's up, Job Watts? Why'd you say that? Why'd you say that, Ja? Huh? Let's see here. Let's see. But yeah, the one thing I'm going to say about Arch Manning, and I'll end it on Arch here, is, oh my God, this is so much cuddling. There you go, Jared. Well, let me see if Jared saw Z. There you go. What did 3D say? I'm trying to get the joke here. I guess I missed. Let me see. It's a multi-poo. DRC. Jared, I hope you saw it. You see, this always happens. I was getting ready to make the last call on the live chat, and we get like all these people coming in 3 hours in. Quit chewing my cords. Yeah, Rain, she can't go outside yet because she's got to get some more shots.
Well, I really think that she was surprised. I know.
All right.
She kept saying,
Yeah, Emma Cat, I was too. And I know I'm a Saints fan. Not as big as I am an LSU fan.
did she find any scooters?
Versus he, David Hicks.
They didn't find any scooters?
Versus he, I don't think we're ready for David Hicks. There you go, 3D. So you could super chat or you could send a Venmo or a Cash App. It's pinned right there at the top. Or you can get your own PHL shirt. I forgot to plug this. I'm glad you mentioned this, my guy. Here we go. Yeah. What do y'all think about this? Okay.
Did she start chewing on your cords again?
Oh, she chewed on the headphone cord. You better come get this bag, girl. It said it shipped. DRC? You got her?
No, I know that.
You got her?
Yeah, I got her.
I guess.
Yeah, we may have to kind of pop her booty when she chews on a cord. Okay.
You can also get a shirt right there.
I know that. I stalked her.
Let me see. Yeah, David Hicks. Not gonna lie, this is gonna turn into a David Hicks fan channel. I do have a connection to that young man, and I really am cheering for him to go to LSU. I think that would be really freaking cool. But yeah, I mean, David Hicks could be the number one player in 2023. He's good. He's good. He's one of those guys that, man, dude, it's hard to make Will Campbell look like just a dude, but he did that. And he's 2023. It's wild. So, yeah. Let's see. I was really happy for Fournette and D. White, though, for real. I mean, but what do y'all think about this? Okay, we're talking NFL, and I know we talk about soccer or whatever 3 hours afterwards. TJ Finley's entered the chat. Do you think TJ will come back to haunt us? If he does, so be it. The answer is probably no. I don't like what Auburn's done with their coaching staff. I really don't. And the answer is probably still no. Look, even if TJ Finley does come and light us up, I'm a huge TJ Finley fan. As I always say, the kids that I love the most at LSU are the 3 stars that become superstars at LSU. So I really wanted TJ Finley to work. I really did. But so many quarterbacks that transfer only became good because of the actual transfer, right? There's some quarterbacks that would have been good wherever they ended up, right? But we don't know that for sure. So let's say TJ Finley goes to Auburn and wins a Heisman. That does not mean he would have won a Heisman at LSU. There is something to be said about being humbled by a transfer, okay? There's something to be said about it. Now, look, I know a lot of people disagree with that, but it's simply true. You're never the same player. Come here, Z. You're never the same player whenever you actually transfer. It's a completely different thing. For the first time, you're told you're not good enough. And whenever you transfer, you are transferring because you're not the starter, okay? 99% of the time. So a whole lot of quarterbacks get better because, they transfer. New team, new you, exactly. Ask yourself this question. Do you think, there's something to be said about Joe Burrow becoming a cold-blooded assassin? Would he have succeeded at Ohio State? Probably. Would he have become the greatest quarterback of all time? I don't know. Look, when you look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time at the college level.
She's back in here.
She's back. She's attached.
She is attached to you.
I'm about to wrap this up.
I brought you pizza home.
You brought me some pizza?
And cheese sticks and 2 Harry Styles cookies.
Harry Styles cookies? They're probably not good because Harry Styles isn't good.
They were actually good. Look at that picture of me and Delaney.
Oh, look at that. Surprise birthday. That's great.
Good?
That's great.
My baby.
Let's see.
I got to show you all the Pressure videos.
Oh, almost.
I already sent them to your mom.
Can't wait. I was eating the same thing. Drodro, no, man. Look, here's what we're going to do. A lot of you just joined in right now. As Haley and I always discuss, I like to keep it under 3 hours. The discussion's been very great. So what we're going to do is for the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to keep this going. However, like we always say, some of you want to keep the chat going. If you super chat and you help pay our rent, and as we said tonight, all the funds are going to Z, Dan Series. All the funds are going to go towards his first vet bill. And as Michael B. earlier in the chat said, his first couple of shots that he had to pay for was $400. So, obviously all the funds go to Z. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep this thing going for about 5 more minutes, unless we keep getting some super chats. Okay. The more super chats we get or t-shirt buys, I get an email for every t-shirt buy. The more of those we get, we obviously will keep the chat moving along. New team, new you. What's one of the best songs I've ever heard? You've heard this year? Oh. Best songs I've heard this year. I'll tell you this. I kind of like music videos. I'm not a huge music person. I like music. I really do like music. But, I listen to more podcasts and sports. And, when you're in this industry, you just do that. I'm not going to lie. DaBaby's Bop music video is one of the best music videos I've ever seen. I love single shot movies. I love the fact that whole music video was just hip hop history. The way it was shot, the feel, and then of course it's well, I'm not going to ruin it, but it's just great. But that music video came out last year. So hip hop heads, please correct me. I know a lot of real hip hop heads don't like new age rappers. Not my cup of tea either, but that music video was straight fire. Fire. Yeah, Rain, I hate that for NC State. It sucks. It sucks. Freaking sucks. I understand, DRC. Jared feels the same way. I still don't think Jared got to see Z. I don't think when Z came back. Not like 1917? Okay. So. Oh, the movie. The movie night. You know what's funny? I don't think I saw 1917. It's funny we were talking about Harry Styles a minute ago. I did see Dunkirk, but that was more because it was a Christopher Nolan movie. And I'm a Nolan guy. I still haven't seen 1917. I heard that it's all about how it's shot. Okay, it was a good movie. Okay. All right. Once again, still looking to see if we get any super chats here at the end. Yeah, 1917. I heard it was great. I really did. But the only movies I see for sure are obviously Christopher Nolan movies. I think he's the greatest director of all time. Pegasus wants to talk defensive line recruiting. I don't know. Okay, we got a super chat here. DRC. Okay, there we go. So we'll keep it going. Thank you, DRC. Interstellar. That's great. DRC, don't worry. The wife won't know. What is it? I think I get 70% of that. Yeah, it's been crazy. Man, it's still wild to have another dog on the chat without it not being bug. For you comedy fans, this was wild. Oh, Leonard, we're doing pizza tonight. I actually okay, Leonard. There's a shop in Dallas called Eatsy's. Okay, and Eatsy's just has great food, and they make these little salmon croquettes. They're expensive as heck, but I actually got 2 of them. I had one before the chat. It's so good. It's like a salmon crab cake kind of thing. Thank you, DRC. I appreciate you, man. And let me know, DRC, if your shirt gets in the mail or not. So for you comedy fans, I want to show you this. This was a show lineup I was on in New York City. Okay. Famous Dangerfields Comedy Club. And when I was told I was booked on it, I wrote down the lineup. Emma Willman, she has a Netflix special. Aaron Berg, I think he has an Amazon special. Nico White's incredible. Passed at the Cellar. And this is one of my favorite comics. Mark Normand. I go to the show and I got bumped. And for those that know that don't get bumped, when you get bumped, that means they take you off the lineup for whatever reason. And I was taken off the lineup. And I would have loved to have been on a show with Mark Normand. I think Mark Normand is fantastic. He's also a LSU guy. He's from Louisiana, from New Orleans. So, yeah. This fell out of my backpack today. I was so sad. I remember writing this. I think this was 4-ish years ago. Hated it, man. And I wrote down 10 minutes. I had a 10-minute set ready to go. Did I see Coming to America 2? I have not. It's just not, it's not going to be as good as the first. And I knew it wasn't going to be that great. It's kind of hard to make that movie again and to recreate that magic again. And everyone who was on that movie was rich. The richer you become, the least funny you need to be. It's just the truth. Okay. Every stand-up special, it is rare for a legendary comic to have a better stand-up special later in their career than earlier in their career. You can make some strong cases. I mean, Chappelle's last few specials were really good, but more often than not, your first special that pops is going to be your best one. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make great specials after that. But still, comedy, whenever you get richer, you could still make great comedy. It's just different than when you're hungry and you're trying to make it. And, a lot of comics will tell you that. Once again, I've never gotten to that level. I've never really gotten to be that funny to begin with. But yeah, Bill Burr's Paper Tiger was really good. Is it better than his other specials? I don't know. But yeah. Jared, we brought the puppy actually ran back just a second ago. Jared. Jared's been in and out. He's got company. Yeah, JJ, I think the window for that sequel far past. But at some point, I'll watch Coming to America too. And for anyone that had high expectations for that movie, you just don't know how comedy works. It's really hard. It's really hard to make something funny again. Okay. We need a full video with Z. Huh? Jared, I'm sorry. However many people you have at your house right now, all 17 of those people at your house should be watching the stream. Yeah, M Academy, you can try to remember Burr Schwarzenegger bit. God, he's got, shucks. It's wild. It's unbelievable. Bill Burr has gotten to be so freaking good. He's so next level funny. Yes, Gold Digger's great. The helicopter bit is probably the best top 5 stand up 5 minutes of material I've ever heard in my life. No wasted words, tight punch. It was just his helicopter bit will go down as one of the greatest pieces of comedy that will ever be produced. It will transcend time, lens, anything you want to look at it. It's objectively funny material, and it was just so good. It reached a level that is just peak. Some people write jokes that are on a level that you'll never be talented enough to do. And a lot of comics will say when they actually hear a transcendent bit of comedy, that was one of those bits where you're like, okay, I gotta quit. I don't deserve to do stand up because everyone should just not watch me live and watch that. It's just that freaking incredible. If every single one of you left my stream to go watch that material, I would be totally I would be totally fine with that. Plus, I'm about to sign off anyway, but still, yes. Yeah, DRC, that Bert's great. There's no other way around it. He's great. I do like him better as, podcaster, entertainer, but the machine, yeah, come on. It's crazy. But, I know they do a podcast together. I think if you polled 100 comedians, it would be really hard to find many. But then again, Bill Burr is a titan. He is. There's times, as Burr wasn't initially one of my favorites, but as I got deeper into joke writing and understanding how hard it is to, write material, Burr is just so good. He gets better. He gets better and better and better. The more you listen, the more you learn about comedy. But the helicopter bit is still just incredible. F is for family. I don't watch a lot of TV. I heard it's great, though. And I'm glad Burr's found, he's successful at everything he does. Whether it's roasting the Grammys or his SNL monologue was so great the last time. He's just great. He's just great. There's some guys that are just so good at this. For instance, Michelle Wolf is someone else. For me, personally, she's so great. She's so great. I got to see her at the Cellar. Haley and I got to see her at the Cellar and work out the material for her last special. Was so good. So good. But yeah, that's one of Rock's favorites. Yeah. And the thing about stand-up is it's a changing industry. I don't know, stand-up specials are such a weird thing now. I don't know how many of them can keep me locked in for a full hour. There's some stand-ups I think that are better than others, or some that I think are really elite, but people don't think of them that way. Lil Rel, unbelievable. He's unbelievable as an actor. He's unbelievable as a stand-up. He's great. He's great. But yeah, yeah, DRC, that's the thing, and then that gets into, whatever. That gets into content strategy and all that. That's not the. Honestly, if I listen to the Bill Burr podcast, I wouldn't want him to just stick to one niche. Okay, this channel is always going to be LSU football. It's never going to change. I know some of y'all asked me about the LSU baseball coach earlier. I'm not at liberty to talk about that. I mean, I am at liberty to talk about it. I would just be doing a disservice because there's people that actually know a lot about college baseball. I'm not Kendall Rogers. So yeah, it's weird. That search was interesting. We'll see. I just don't know anything. I know Arizona can hit. That's obviously something LSU needs. Got to score runs to win in baseball. So yeah. Rodney Carrington or Jay Hickman. I don't know too much about Jay. I've spoken to Rodney before over the phone for about 20 minutes. It was a random phone call. I was doing a radio interview with a radio station I was working for at the time, and he gave me a lot of really good advice. His comedy is not, the kind of comedy that, I listen to, but he's good. He's obviously really funny. One day, I won't do it now, but he did share with me a story that involved, I'll save this for the next Saturday night live chat. And Leonard, if I get a super chat, I'll tell the story now. But I'll save it for the next one because it is a long story. And I don't like telling other comedian stories because it can only be told from their point of view. But there is a Rodney Carrington story that involves, it's wild. It's pretty wild. My mind was blown talking to this guy. Number one, a legend of comedy, one of the greatest, blue collar musical comedian acts ever is Rodney Carrington. And there's a story he told me, and it's not really a public story, that involved Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and one of the most famous comics to ever work. And I'll tease it for next Saturday night's live stream or next Tuesday's live stream. And it's the wildest comedy story it's top 5 wildest comedy stories I've ever heard another comedian tell me. So I'll save that for another time. But it's this A-list comic that Rodney Carrington worked with is not a guy that you would have ever thought he would have worked with. But yeah, Rodney's really good. What's up, Britt? Live vacation. Okay, what's good? You'll be in the desert next Saturday show. So yeah. Pryor or Murphy couldn't make it today. Well, they'd have to be different. That's all there is to it. I mean, comedy, it's just, it changes from generation to generation. Some people, if you're funny, you're funny. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think comedy always comes down to context. And what you like out of a comedian, what you don't like. There's some comedians that are A-listers that I love. There's some that I don't. But yeah. All right, guys. This has been a fun live chat. You guys got to meet Z, and it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I know so many of you are so close to Boog, but you're gonna love Z. We've loved Z. It's been emotional going from Boog to Z, and you guys saw me cry when we all had to say goodbye to Boog, and it was tough. But yeah, life moves on. Brent, my guy, on vacation, probably out partying. I love it. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Jared, Auburn guys don't get shout outs. Let's go. Huh?